Deep Fried Thoughts, it's the best podcast. Deep Fried Thoughts. Don't worry, we're working on a better intro. All right, dude. Well, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It has been a while. We were going through, I can't believe, what is it? It's December 13th now or something like that?
Something. Yeah.
Last time was February.
It's been
like a long
a whole
time.
year.
I'm sure it flew by a lot quicker for you with all the editing and the filming and everything else.
It's a mixture because it's like it kind of felt like it did, and at the same time I've been doing so much work it feels like a long year. But if you had asked me how long ago did we record it, I would have been like, yeah, it was a couple months. I don't know.
I was thinking like it was very recently.
It feels
until
like
you said that, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's time now. Like, see, what you got a little glimpse of is life with children. Because it's something that just soaks up every moment of your life.
Right.
And just takes over.
And it feels important, but at the same time you kind of hate it.
I don't know if I'm ready to admit that, but yeah, you're probably right. So yeah, dude, so your movie wrapped.
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part. There's still some editing to do.
Sure.
Now, I know you wanted to talk about some things, but I wanted to be really cautious about what we talk about here, especially with spoilers.
Right.
Because most people watching have no opportunity to watch it whatsoever yet.
Right, for
it's
a
not
long
like people
time.
have a chance. Yeah. So what's the process of that? Before we jump into everything else, we'll backtrack. What's like the ultimate goal of like where this is going to be able to be viewed by people?
Well, the movie?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of dictated by what happens in the upcoming months. So right now, like you said, I have to finish editing it. There's some post-production that still needs to be done. We showed it in the theater so we could see where it was at.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I was so honored to be there.
It was a lot of fun. And so we still need to go through some sound mixing, some cleaning up of the audio, because I'm sure, as you heard, there was some moments that didn't quite sound right. A couple of moments that didn't look right either. So I need to do that.
Before we go on, I was curious about that with the audio, because I've learned a lot as far as audio recording with with the podcast. Like one of the things that blew my mind is I would sit here with little headphones, like I had my AirPods, and I would do all editing. I'd release it, and then all these people that I had said, "Hey, give me like honest feedback. Let me know what it sounds like where you're at." It was like people in cars. It always sounded weird. People that pretty much if you weren't listening to it on headphones, it sounded weird. So I had to learn a lot of little things in tweaking so it was like working for everybody, because I realized my headphones are limited where someone's car system might be able to do more. So they were hearing things that I wasn't even picking up on.
Yeah, every sound system is different.
Yeah. So the reason I brought that up, though, sorry to cut you off, it was it different like that, seeing it on the screen and hearing their audio? Was it like the similar? Okay. All right.
Yeah. And so I had obviously done all the editing on my computer, so everything's on headphones. My other editor was doing stuff over the speakers to his computer, but that's not, a great way to listen to it either.
Yeah.
And so I did listen to it on my home system, like on my TV. But to be honest, when I was doing that, I was keeping the volume fairly low because I didn't want anybody in the house to hear what was going on. So I knew that there was going to be differences. I knew that there was going to be things that I didn't hear while editing that I would need to address in the final edit. And on top of that, there were already things that I knew I needed to fix anyway. Like we had a bad boom pole. So there's a little bit of wobble in a couple of scenes early in the movie that I need to still kind of splice out.
Does it sound like the sound is maybe moving?
It's not that it's
I'm
moving.
not sure with the wobble.
It's it's a rumble. Like if you were to shake the mic.
Oh, so you're actually hearing, gotcha.
Yeah, you're hearing the mic move.
Gotcha.
And it sounds bad. It sounds cheap. So it's something that, unless you're into audio editing and stuff, you don't really pick up on it that much, but it just sounds like a bass. Like there's a bass in the movie for no reason. So maybe it'll make a moment more intense if it's at the right moment, but for the most part, it's just, it shouldn't be there. So you mess through a couple of the different takes you have, try to find one that doesn't have it in that moment, splice around, see what you get, but it's just very time consuming. So, it's one of those things that I noticed it a day before I was going to do it, going to show it. So I was like, this is going to take like 1 week to do this one scene. So let me just worry about this after the showing. But yeah, so it's all just, just tertiary things that we'll figure out. As far as the plot goes and stuff like that, it was ready to show. So cool. I was excited to have people finally see it.
Yeah, I loved it, by the way.
Good.
I was totally into it. And I was like, I don't want to come off wrong, like where I was like picking it apart. Knowing that you were so heavily involved and knowing you, like anytime I'm like really into a director, I like, if I go to watch a film because I like the way the director chooses to film
Right.
something, the way he uses camera angles or the way he uses lighting, then I'm going to be really looking for that. And it doesn't take away from the film. It adds another depth.
Right.
So I felt like knowing that you were so heavily involved, I was like, there was a depth of the audio aspect of it, the depth of the cameras, the angles, the cuts, the edits, and like trying to see like what you were wanting to do, and then watching it, in the end, it's like I wanted to go back and watch it like 4 or 5 times to see like, well, first of all, just without spoiling anything, obviously I want to go back and watch it a bunch because I know there's going to be so much more that I'll pick up on.
Right.
But I mean, even just like for just personal choices throughout editing.
Sure.
The editing process.
And that's great. I'm flattered by that.
Yeah.
Like I would.
I was fun, dude. I had a great time.
Good. I had a lot of people. I've had this phrase said to me probably more than anything so far was people saying, "Thank God I didn't have to pretend it was good." Like,
I should have said that.
That's how a lot of people felt. Like you have a lot of people that get into things and you're never sure if they're actually going to be good at it, and then they're all excited about it. You're like, man, what if it sucks? And there was a lot of people not willing to admit that they were afraid of that. But I've had a lot of people after the fact. Even when I was first just posting like the clips on YouTube and stuff. My one buddy Eric, who I've done plenty of this stuff on YouTube that I've done with him, like a lot of drunk reviews. And when I first told him, hey, I'm making a movie, he didn't say it to me then, but he was thinking like, are you stupid? Like, how are you going to make a movie? Yeah. And then I started posting clips on YouTube, which are very rough edits, but still you could tell like there was an element of hopefully quality there. And he was like, you know what? Dude, go for it. Like you've got something going on. So
the first clip you uploaded, I was like, it almost all the doubt that I would have had. I didn't have doubt in you, but like obviously I was afraid for you because it was such you were jumping off a cliff, right?
Yeah.
And it's like one that I want to jump off.
That would be dumb.
I'm too afraid to jump off that cliff. So I like was living vicariously through the fact that you did something that I've dreamed of doing since I was pretty much like Thatcher's age. Like I always wanted to make a movie. So I was really excited for you. But when I saw that first clip, I was like, this looks beautiful. And a lot of that goes into, trusting the people that you also have whose hands are on it.
Yes. Yep.
And I know that that's something you hear a lot where somebody, the director's cut comes out because, directors like this completely changed this aspect of the film or this one little edit. It's like they didn't get the vision or, they didn't think it was going to make enough money. So they cut this scene and added this and all these different things where you got everybody's hands on it. And for you, it's like you actually had the privilege of being in such control that you got to choose people, but then you still had to relinquish some of their like freedom and artistic freedom, right?
Sure, and there's a lot of trust that goes into that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because, and I think it's extremely important when you're getting into any sort of a group project that is creative and it's my baby, or I think a lot of people call their artistic projects their baby, but it's not really. It's you. Like this is me. Like you're judging it and you're judging me. So when you're letting other people attach themselves to it,
makes it so much scarier.
That's terrifying. So I think probably the most important thing, especially when you're first starting out, is you have to surround yourself with people that are more talented than you, know more than you. And that's what I did with, Elemento was the production company I was working with. These guys have been professionally making commercials for years.
Is that the guys that... Was that the camera crew?
Yeah, camera crew.
I loved that name, and I meant to tell you. I thought that was you, and I was like, that was such an awesome name. I love little catchy things like that. Anyway.
Elemento. And it's Elemento P because it's Elemento Productions, which I think is clever.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, so it really became a collaborative effort because, this guy's been working professionally with a camera for years. And, I've done... my run around in the woods making videos on my own stuff, but it's like I've never professionally made something like this. So I have visions, but you never know how practical they actually are. So when we would attack a scene, we would both have different ideas. Sometimes we would come to the same scene with the exact same idea, and that was cool. But most of the time, it's like, here's my idea. Okay, here's my idea, and we'd fight about it for a while. And it's a healthy fight, but you're still fighting, trying to get it right. And sometimes I was right, and he'd be like, yo, dude, actually, yeah, that was a better idea. And sometimes he'd be right, and I'd be like, okay, I admit it. And sometimes you make a compromise in between, but like it's so important to have people that know what they're doing, And I also said it plenty of times before, I think I'm the worst actor in my own movie. You have to surround yourself with talent, because it's like, I know what I want, but you need the people that know how to do it.
Let's not forget I was in there, too.
You were good, though. You were.
I liked it for my like 3 seconds.
Yeah, you did all right.
I did take a picture of myself in the credits and sent it to my family, which having family that's actually in Hollywood and doing movies and TV shows right now, I got clowned a little bit.
Well, yeah. But no,
you're like, humble yourself. Anyway, but I was like, I don't care. I'm taking this moment. I like it.
Yeah.
I was so happy for you. And I was really excited to talk to you here. Dude, I know nobody has seen it, so they're not going to understand, but
Sure.
There was the opening scene, and then you step out of the house, you know, a little flustered, and no, not even flustered at that moment. When you step out of the house, and the camera's like out by the street, and it watches you walk, and you go down the hill, right? So it's like that really far shot.
Right.
There was a feel in that felt so many levels above where I expected the film to be. I mean, and it's funny because most people would have seen that as just like a little cut scene, but there was like the decision of where they shot it, the length that they had it on, the audio, the build up of the music in the background, even just coming from the last scene from one room to another, it was like I felt like something was changing. I felt I felt that I started here at the bottom and that I was about to be lifted up higher and higher to like a more intense thing. And the movie did get more and more intense. And I felt that from that second. And I was like, that was when I sat down. I was like,
we got something.
Yeah, because before I was like, I remember when I was going there, I was like, all right, if it's bad, you just got to love and support Simon and let him know, like, if it is bad, it's just this cut. He just has to make some changes. And he's, you know, because I didn't think if it bombed, I was like, nobody's going to be able to hide that. It's going to be very awkward and you'll know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, like I'm glad everybody else kind of felt the same way because I was totally into it.
Right, and that's not to say that there wasn't criticism. I got criticism that I took in stride because it's like it was true to an extent, and you know some of it's creative differences that some people are like, well, I would have done this. I'm like, okay, but some of it is constructive criticism that you take, and you're like, yeah, I agree. That's
I want to talk to you about that stuff on here, but I won't until it's out. When it's out, you'll come back and we'll talk about stuff.
Get into spoilers at the later point in this podcast.
I'm just worried about it because anybody that's going to be listening, minus like a few people, haven't seen it and can't.
Well, we can just tell them, hey, leave. That's fine. I don't mind.
I figured I'd pick your brain another time about it for some of those things.
Up to you.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Maybe a few more of these drinks and I'll be like, guess what?
Why not?
Just spoil it. No, it was cool. But yeah, the video guys, like that's one of the things that like I think it's because I lack the most skill when it comes to video, and I admire video and like lighting and things like that so much. That is like my favorite thing to admire from a distance because I don't have the skill or the knowledge to do it, but I know what they're doing. So I know, oh, they did this. Right. That took a lot of extra time, or wow, they timed that so perfectly in the day. You know, they're so lucky they got it on that take. So I can appreciate it. But that was like one of my favorite parts as far as anybody outside of you was the video. I was like, these guys really, I mean, and that makes sense that they've been doing this for a long time with commercials and stuff, but.
Right. But this is still a whole nother beast for them. Like, you're not filming commercials like that.
Yeah.
But they came in and they were ready to work and they loved the collaboration and they were great with it. And I mean, you pointed out that shot, but similarly in that following scene, when you've got the drone shot, the descending.
Oh, I did notice that. I was like, oh, that looks beautiful.
Such a great contrast because, you know, so the first shot that you mentioned, it's on sticks. It's just a wide shot, a holding wide shot on sticks. And so it's doing a lot by doing nothing. But then in opposition, having that descending drone shot is doing a lot by actually doing something. And so that first shot you're talking about is very much to set up, okay, what's going to happen? And then that descending shot is very much of like, okay, something has started to happen. We're not sure what yet, but now we, as the camera, are kind of the sky's falling. You know,
yeah, it was almost like when you shut the door. It was like you were Indiana Jones and you just pulled the treasure, right? And you had set the ball rolling, and like I felt this imminent thing rolling towards us.
Yeah,
it was cool.
That's fun.
Yeah. And of course I'm trying to guess the whole time, and I had thought about. You know, what it wound up being, and then I was like, no, it's got to be something else. And I moved on, and I was like, beating myself. I was like, oh, man, I wish I would have stuck with that. The girl in the bathroom. Okay. What is her name?
Lindsay Bentham. She is fantastic.
Dude, she's on a level, again, that was like so far beyond. Nobody was bad. There was no actor or actress that I was like, ooh, that kind of pulled out, because that can happen.
It can, yeah. But
except if anything, she was so good that I was just like, I like was thrown back a little bit. I was like, whoa, we like just jumped again. She like so, and that's really just as you know, an homage to her. Like she did it fantastic.
She was amazing. She was a bit eccentric. She's a method actor, so she was a little intimidating. But I loved it because it was just like she showed up and she brought it.
Was she from around here, or how'd you find everybody?
So everybody was fairly local, at least. I used a couple of friends, like you were in it. Eric was in it. Connor, my buddy Connor, we've mentioned him before. He's a stand-up comic, and we worked together as well. But yeah, all the actors, the professional actors I found were from a website called Backstage.
Okay,
it is professional. Like you could find, B-list, C-list actors on there, but you can also find somebody that's never acted in anything before, but just wants to try it. So it's cool. Yeah, it's a good way to find people.
I have always had like wanting to act, but I never like the fame part. But I've always wanted to be in the films and like have fun, just to be a part of it.
Sure.
But then like the more I started altering my physical appearance, I was like, man, I'm like really close casting this dream that I'm not even working towards. So I can always just be like tough guy number 1 or like biker bad guy number 2, biker guy. But it's fun. Yeah. We were drinking some monkey shoulder over here. This stuff is pretty good.
I've never had it before.
I got really into bourbon recently, and I was looking up on YouTube videos because where we learn everything nowadays, and I was trying to figure out the difference between like bourbon and Scotch, and there's really very little differences, but the product in the end is very different. Yeah. And every Scotch I tried, I'm like, this is disgusting. Like I would watch a review and the guy's like, "Ooh, it's got like a little bit of a leathery earth feel." And I'm like, that sounds disgusting and more gross. And I'm like, so I don't like have a desire of like, man, I'm out of Scotch. I just go bite my belt, chew on it for a little bit. Like it's disgusting to me. And most of the ones I tried were gross. But this one's like more subtle and it's like a blend. So it's a couple different ones. But this one, it was like very honey, like to me. It reminded me a lot of honey, like very sweet.
Okay. Yeah, see, it's funny because you're saying like those elements you don't like the leather and stuff. I feel like I taste that in this, but I don't know. I like it.
There's an aspect of it, but it doesn't punch through as a main.
It's not overpowering. It is
for
subtle.
Me.
Yeah, it's subtle.
We have other stuff too if you want.
No, I like it.
So I hope you have some room to eat. We're not going to eat right now, but soon we got a little something special coming up. Anyway, we'll get to that later.
Yeah. I'm intrigued.
I was more excited until I saw the food. Now I'm a little iffy. Who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, you'll understand what I mean later. It's not that I'm not poisoning you. It's nothing bad. It's not like were those jelly beans from Harry Potter?
Oh,
the fake ones.
Flavored. Yeah, Bertie Bott's.
When I was driving the trash truck, we found I ate a lot from the trash.
Yeah.
One time I found like a little box was unopened. So we started eating them, and you could flick the little spinner, and you land on the green one. You got to pick green one. It's either going to be boogers or like green apple, right?
Right.
Or something like that. Jenny was pregnant at the time, or no, Jenny had given birth to Thatcher very recently, and so she was breastfeeding. So like breast milk has a smell. You could think maybe if you're listening or Simon, you might think that birth is beautiful and that breastfeeding is beautiful, and like I find it all repulsive.
Okay.
And I'm turned off by it, all of it. Like if there was a way to just like do things differently, I'd sign up for it. Okay? Cuz I mean, short of the practicing, I'm not into the baby actually coming. Anyway, so breast milk was like a thing that specifically bothered me, and it like turned me off of string cheese. Because it had a similar smell, like if you buy the cheap string cheese. Okay. You know that little bit of liquid that's in the pouches?
Oh, God.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That liquid reminded me of breast milk. And I don't know why. There was something similar. So I reach in and I eat this white one that was either buttered popcorn or rotten milk. Okay. Or breast milk. Sorry, I don't know why I said rotten milk. So I take a bite of it and I didn't realize what they both were. I just knew it was going to be either something good or bad. And I happened to grab the white one. And I'm driving this 30,000-pound truck down Concord Road, like a main road, and I start getting the taste of breast milk. Dude, I roll down my window and I'm going down this main road and just vomiting out the front window all over the road. It's a 2-lane highway, so like I don't even remember if anybody was coming the opposite way. It was so bad I had to pull over and just continue vomiting on the side of the road.
That's wild.
It was horrible. I don't know how I got down this path, but
yeah, I was like, this doesn't sound very film related. I don't know.
Monkey shoulder. No, I just I got a lot of stories. I got a lot on my mind.
No, it's fine.
If you want to segue, you're welcome to. We segue all the time here.
I'd love a segue.
So we do. In fact, I should call this the segue.
All around on it.
Anyway, but no, we do have a treat coming up soon.
Cool.
I'm trying to think of what else. I wanted to bring up a couple scenes while we're on the subject. The scene on the beach.
Sure.
Did you write all that dialogue, or did you guys just kind of have some connection and just go back and forth there, because there was something so natural about it. I loved it.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't believe there are any ad-libbed lines in the entire script. There's probably a couple of lines that were said slightly different than in the script, but everything was written, yeah.
Okay.
But so that's a huge compliment.
It reminded me of
hoping it would be
Clerks.
Okay. Cool.
Because it wasn't this deep subject matter. It was just normal banter. Like, because that is how people talk. You know, in movies, it's like everything has to have a purpose. We're trying to cram in like a plot in 2 hours or an hour and a half, and everything has to have meaning.
Right.
Whereas that did have meaning, but the meaning, and stop me if I'm like totally off, but for me, it felt like the meaning was just character growth. It was just, I was just learning about the characters and just seeing, you know, an aspect of their life. And even though I'm sure there were things in there to catch it, you know, another time around, it was just a natural, normal conversation between two people where I got lost in that scene for a moment. I loved that.
Great. Yeah, so for those of you who haven't seen it yet, there's several flashback scenes throughout this maybe you know nothing about this movie at all. So the plot of this movie...
Yeah, I don't. You give the plot, because I don't want to ruin anything.
It's called The Softening. It's about a man whose wife and kids suddenly disappear without explanation and are replaced by a strange woman claiming to be his wife. So he's trying to figure out what's going on. Nobody seems to believe him. Everybody's kind of treating him like he's a little crazy or something. And so he's just trying to figure out what's going on and figure it out. But so since his wife goes missing so early on into this film, something that I knew was absolutely necessary was flashbacks. You know, I've seen plenty of movies where a love interest or somebody important goes missing and we're supposed to care, but we're never given a reason to care other than the fact that the characters care. So I was like, all right, we're going to constantly be cutting back to various moments throughout this couple's relationship. So it's actually going in reverse order. A little inspiration from Memento there, where it's like every flashback is, you know, in a different direction than the main plot is going. And so it starts with them on honeymoon, then them getting engaged, then their first kiss, their first date, so on and so forth. And through the whole movie, I really wanted to put an emphasis on dialogue being natural. A lot of these conversations, I mean, I would just be having them with myself and see where it would go. And like you said, there's stuff in there that's important to the plot. But most importantly was we needed to care about these characters. We needed to see them in action. We needed to see their relationship, you know, give a damn about her especially, but also, you know, Ted as well, because he's the protagonist. So we care about him because he's a protagonist, but let's give him a little bit of personality, give him a little bit of growth, because you can even just tell who he is in the flashbacks is a slightly different person than who he is now. He's grown up a bit, you know, he's a little more confident. He's a little less stupid, hopefully. So yeah, I'm really flattered that you'd say that they came across as improvisational or natural, because that was the goal. Especially scenes like, there's another scene where they're sitting watching TV, and I'm so proud of that dialogue, because I was nervous actually going into the show and going like, are people going to think this is dumb, or are they going to actually find it funny? Like, what's going to happen? But so they're just talking, they're trying to pick kid names and stuff, but they get into like a fight, like a really stupid, petty fight. And I was hoping it would be like a universal concept, but it was so random. Like they're arguing about like, oh, well, 3 kids is the worst number. No, it should be more than that. Well, double 3 is 6. And it's all this stupid random stuff, but it's so natural. Like, I've had that fight so many times.
I've had that fight as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And it was perfect. I forgot about the 3 and the 6
Right.
and the 4. I was laughing because I'm like, I could just picture this conversation happening between Jenny and I, and me doing exactly like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you
she's
can
like,
have
made
this
it
one.
up.
You can have
Where's,
this one.
Where did you read that? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows anymore? On my phone somewhere, probably on the toilet.
Yeah.
Article. No, it was good. It was good in that aspect, the writing.
Thank you.
I love writing little short stories or writing about things. And like a natural conversation is something I'm constantly picking apart if I ever try and do something like that. It's
hard.
so difficult.
It is hard.
Because you want to have, you have an agenda with what you're writing. You have an end, right? And you want this to help propel you towards that end.
Right.
But sometimes that's not how life really, the conversation works. So it's a balance, right? You got to have something pushing it forward, but also seem normal.
Right. And so there was a couple of moments actually that I realized, when I realized, oh, this is working, was when there was, and I don't want to give anything away by saying what the lines were, but there were lines in there that were foreshadowing, that were put in there by accident, because I was just having them have a natural conversation, and they said something that I was like, oh wait, on a second read that actually has like some sort of innuendo.
Oh,
like
gotcha.
it means something else, because I only discovered it because I was like, oh, I should have something in there, and I went back, I'm like, there already is. So I was like, that was a cool
I wonder
thing.
how often some of these cult films that like people just dive into like full on, that they're picking apart or being like, oh man, he did this, he must have meant it. I wonder how much of that is just like, I had no idea that was
a lot
in
of
there.
it. A lot of
You know
it's
what I mean?
bullshit. And I will say, like, for my movie, most, if not everything, has a meaning. But
I thought you were gonna say it's bullshit.
No. Like, yeah, no, there is no meaning. It's just random. We just showed up and filmed. I don't know. But, like, for example, Get Out. We both talked about that movie before. We both like it.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's that scene where the one woman is eating Fruit Loops. And she's got the colors of the Fruit Loops and the white of the milk separated. And people are like, oh, because she's racist, you've got the colors and the white separated. And Jordan Peele, the writer-director, is like, no, I just thought it looked creepy. So, like, that's why as a director, I think most directors just shut up. Because they're like, I want you to make it seem cooler than it is. But I'm like, no, if you guess something about my movie and get it wrong, I'll tell you. But there's a lot of meaning there. Not all of it is always as clever as people may think it is. But there's nothing in my movie is there by accident. You know, everything has a meaning. Except for the occasional thing, like I pointed out, like you just showed up wearing the shirt, and that's a very small thing, but it was like a cool little attachment.
I did like that after seeing like what you meant by it.
Yeah. And so it's like, sure, that wasn't there on purpose, but it does have a meaning now because it has an actual application to the story. And so there's a couple things like that, but I'd say 99% of it was planned ahead of time. Sure.
That's cool. I did want to mention, just for those of you watching, because it might look like I'm wearing a Biden shirt, Biden 2024. It does say Biden Fetterman 2024. It's a no-brainer. So I just wanted to clarify that, whether you're into that or think that's funny or not.
And for those of you watching, this is my merch.
What? Nice.
It's Simon's Rants.
Where can you get that?
It is shop.spreadshirt.com/SimonsRants. One more time, shop.spreadshirt. No, I almost messed that up. shop.spreadshirt.com/SimonsRants.
Nice.
I also have a YouTube channel, Simon's Rants. Pretty easy to find.
Yeah. I like the channel. That's like, your channel is where I go when I'm tired, and I just and I just want to lay in bed and watch something. And it's usually I'm looking for the most obscure thing that you rated, and that's
nice.
I mean, the We Sing was my favorite one to go to.
Yeah.
And
I've
said
people's favorite thing
I've sent that to a bunch of people. Good. Well, I just like, nobody knows what that is.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think anybody did. And then even seeing that people were, communicating on the bottom in the comment section about it, I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one too.
Right. We all had this fever dream.
Right?
But yeah, no, I'm flattered because I have go-tos at night. I'm one of those people that I can't fall asleep with silence anymore. I've ruined myself.
Do you think that's a bad thing?
Yeah.
Because I do it too. I cannot. Yeah. I sleep with headphones.
This is a negative track that our evolutionary track has gone. We're off track here. We need to figure it out. But yeah, so I have like specific channels that I'll listen to fall asleep to. So if somebody tells me, oh yeah, I like your first thoughts because they're a little calmer, it's just you talking. People have told me, yeah, I fall asleep to that. I'm like, dude, cool, awesome. Yeah. I don't care if you don't finish the video because you're asleep. You're still listening to it to fall asleep. That's awesome.
So as long as I get those counts.
Yeah, get me the ad revenue. That's all I want.
No, yeah, but I like it. It's fun to listen to, and I don't always need to see it when I'm falling asleep. But yeah, dude, I sleep with headphones because when I was a kid, what this really boils down, not to get into this deep a subject, when I was a little kid, my parents used to fight like brutally. It was like violent. It was really bad. Physical, like just whether it's just beating each other down verbally or physically, it was bad. Mm-hmm. So I remember as a kid, a lot of times, like I would just get in this habit of just like putting my TV on like this. I had this little TV that was probably like a 4-inch screen, but it was like, as far as like the depth of it was like probably like a foot, maybe 2 feet like deep, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So it was like a giant rectangle. I don't even know why the TV was shaped like that.
A tube, I'm guessing? Was it a tube TV? Like a mini tube?
Oh, yeah. This was like the first like portable TVs. This is like way back in the day. But I don't even know how I ended up with it as a kid. But anyway, I would have that and I would just put it on some, one of the 4 channels that it had, and I would just fall asleep listening to something. Yeah. And then as I got older, I kept doing the same thing, and then get an iPod and whatever else. And then getting married, it's like Jenny would be upset by it. Jenny sleeps in silence, right?
Yeah. She's normal.
So she's normal. But for me, it's like, I don't know, I get this anxiety. When it's quiet, I'm just like, I look around, I feel like I'm going to miss something, or I feel like something's going on, and I just need something. Yeah. It's like, people might think I'm listening to something because I want to engage. It's actually the opposite. Like, my mind starts racing when it's quiet. When I put something else on, it's like a single track that I'm following versus the multi-tracks that I can't control when I'm trying to sleep. It keeps me up.
Yeah, I think it's an ADHD thing. I think that, at least for me, because it's like, and I mean, I started getting into it because of similar reasons. I was trying to drown out noise. It wasn't the same thing. It was actually my roommates in college snoring, because I was in a dorm with 5 other guys. So there's a lot of snoring. So I just started listening to music to fall asleep. Soon that became YouTube videos and stuff. But yeah, I think for me, though, a part of it is an ADHD thing where it's like my mind is already in 10 places. If there's nothing to fill the gap, it will find something to do. So by having something to concentrate on, it is taking like it's filling the backtrack for me. And so then my mind, if it's thinking about something, it's only one thing, and then I can fall asleep. Like
it's the same thing. Yeah. But it just seems so opposite or counterintuitive.
Yeah.
If you don't understand that.
I need to not focus, so let me focus.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but it does.
But the sleeping with the headphones is so weird. Like, I feel like I'm doing something bad. I don't know.
I did that when I was in school because I didn't want to keep my roommates up with my music, but now because I'm sleeping by myself, I don't need to do that, and I dread the day if I ever get married or something that I'm going to have to bring that back.
Yeah.
Maybe my wife will just be one of those girls that sleeps like with the white sound machine, and we can just both do that.
So Jenny does that.
Okay.
But if I play something, it's instantly wakes up. It's like, remember that game Don't Wake Daddy? It's Don't Wake Jenny every night for me. Like, dude, it's the bizarrest thing. Like, the most bizarre things, like, will wake her up. Yeah. I'll go in, like, there's been times where I walk down the hallway, like, to my bedroom. I pass by, like, the 2 kids' room. I'm trying to be quiet, so I won't put the light on because the light will shine through my daughter's room, like, through her door, in, like, a little gap. So sometimes I'll just go to the room dark. And you know your house, but sometimes the kids will leave something and I'll stub my toe and or I'll yell. There's been times where I've just straight up walked face first into our door because I went from like the lit up downstairs to a dark hallway,
right, and
just face plant right into a door, and it's so incredibly loud. And she's just asleep, right? I'll walk in, I'll stub my toe on the bed. It hurts. I will put something on like a podcast that is so incredibly quiet, like less than the last volume on your phone. Like when you go down, it's like either this or mute. You know how you can actually, did you know you can go on with your finger and actually get between that?
Yeah.
I want to be very specific here so you know how low this is. I'll be watching something and she'll wake up after I just made all this noise. I'd be like, what are you doing?
Do you want a scientific explanation for this? There's a scientific explanation.
Okay.
Women's ears, their inner ear, for when they're asleep, is designed to only pick up on high frequencies, not low, so that they don't wake up to their husband snoring, but they'll wake up to their children crying. So,
that's so weird. I thought you were going to make a joke, but you're dropping bombs.
When you listen to something on your phone, it's a high frequency. And so if you're grunting or stubbing your toe, she won't hear that, but she'll hear something high-pitched like
Dude, you're spot on. That's got to be exactly what this is, because it's the most bizarre things, and it's usually somebody talking. Mm-hmm. But I could be like I said, just going through like a tornado in the room.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah. They're designed that way.
That's crazy. Well, she's working. She's working the way she should. I don't need to send this one back. Man, I thought there was something wrong with her.
Yeah, I don't know. I dropped knowledge.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Chutch. Right? Is that what Snoop would say?
I don't know.
I say that right? Am I allowed to say that? Can I speak Ebonics?
It's your podcast.
I don't want to do it. I am dressed pretty based right now.
Yeah.
It's probably not very movie.
We should probably watch what we say a little bit.
Well, the last episode, for those of you listening, got banned off YouTube. We talked about the vaccine. I was actually I just found it gross, is the best way to put it. Like, I found it just to be like very repulsive, and it turned me off. Because we didn't really say anything too crazy. I mean, everything we talked about was either satirical, or when we were talking factually, we were talking about a film that was released and what the film's context was. Right. And then I listened back on it. I'm like, I don't know exactly what.
It's probably the satire. I mean, I didn't hear it, but
I called Joe Biden
maybe we shouldn't say it on this podcast.
PEDO.
Okay.
But the full word, like 5 or 6 times.
That was probably it.
But like I said it to be funny in the end, like to say they'll cancel me.
It's hard to
Yeah, but then I didn't realize. So there's an algorithm that reads that listens to all the audio and it jots down all the words. Or I don't know how it actually does it, but it knows all the audio and all the words used. And then if there's certain words in there that are banned, it can actually go into the context.
Yeah, so
somewhat
it's a computer program doing it, not a person.
Yes.
But then if you say like, "Hey, double check this," then a person will go in.
I did it to waste their time on purpose.
But they're not going to watch your whole video. They're going to watch whatever. Like if you look, there'll be like a highlighted clip of the part that got it banned or taken down.
Okay, that I need to know, because what frustrated me the most is that they just said, "Hey, you spreading misinformation.
Right.
This is a warning before your strike." Now I know how strikes work. I don't want anything on my channel.
Right.
Right. So I didn't repost it. Normally, I just if this didn't mean anything to me, I'd be like, "F you, I'm reposting it."
Right.
I'll make another account and repost it. But I do want to build something. And I want to, it's their platform, and I appreciate it. So as gross as I find it, I wanted to repost it, but I was like, I don't know what to edit out.
Right.
Because I didn't know that they would show you even a clip.
I've never done it for. I've never had my videos taken down for misinformation or anything like that. It's always been for copyright. And whenever it's that, they tell you which part is what triggered the thing. So I don't know if it's different or not, but I would assume it had something to do with that. And then at least on their end, it was like, okay, well, here's the clip. And so, like I said, first a computer registered it, and then if a human's going to look at it, they're not going to watch the whole video. They're just going to watch one part out of context. Mm-hmm. So if you're saying it's satire, they may not have even known it was joking, and so they're like, all right, well, we should take this down.
Yeah, I do believe it.
Okay,
I do believe it, but it was said satirically.
Let's not get this podcast taken down. I care about this.
I know, me too. Sorry, YouTube.
Yeah, I care about YouTube.
I love YouTube. Oh, thank you very much. I'm what I'm really doing all this for? This was all part of the plan, was to get on YouTube eventually, is because I want the little triangle posted up behind me.
Oh,
the play button?
The play button.
I bet you they sell them on Amazon. I should just buy a play button.
I bet you I bet you like Etsy, somebody's making them on Etsy.
How do you think that would be? Do you think people would think I was joking, or do you think they would be like, what a loser? Like,
I don't know.
Because I would do it to be funny.
I noticed, it might be too early for you, but for me, like, once you get past the 1,000, and so you've got like a 1 point thing, you've got like a 1 point thing in your subscriber thing. Like, I always used to get comments like, "Oh, you don't even have whatever amount of subscribers, like you don't matter." But once you get a 1 point something, people don't look at if it's a K or an M. They just know, oh, you've got a 1 point something, and they stop commenting, stuff like that. So I could probably get one, and people wouldn't even notice that I've only got 2,000 subscribers. They'd be like, yeah, sure, he's legit.
How long did it take you to get into the 1,000 mark?
I want to say 3 years, something like that.
I'm glad you said that, because the 3 years is what I imagined.
Yeah.
At the rate I'm going.
And I would say, and even with that, my goal with it the whole time was whatever I got in the first year, keep doubling that every year. Mm. And I think that's a fair thing to do.
Yeah, that's a great way to go at it.
Because, people grow at different rates. Some people, they got $1 million their first 2 years, and you're like, I don't know how you did that. I'm sure you sold your soul or something. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick to my guns in a lot of the things that I do. Like, I've had plenty of people say, like, oh, if you edited it this way or if you had thumbnails this way, I'm like, I don't care. I'm just doing it because I enjoy it.
Doing this by yourself, you have a real job, right? Outside of this. I don't say real job. You have a full-time job. Plus you have YouTube.
Plus making a movie.
Is very much like a full-time job, doing that stuff.
I essentially have been trying to work 3 full-time jobs for the past year.
I believe you. I'm editing 1 episode a month, and I know that it takes me. People would not believe the amount of time that goes into.
It's a lot of effort
putting this up. It's insane.
This past week alone, I've been joking a lot about this because I developed a stress-related eye twitch this week, trying to finish the movie in time. And I don't know have you seen Pink Panther? Any of the Pink Panthers, like the old ones, not the new ones?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking to my friend at the premiere, actually, and I was like, yeah, I've got an eye twitch. And he's like, oh, from lack of sleep or stress? I'm like, no, I just really need to kill Clouseau. Like, that's so that's a Pink Panther joke that nobody else will get.
I did not get it. I've seen them. I don't remember them enough.
All right, Sorry. Well, it was funny to 2 people watching this, I'm sure. My mom and me.
Nice. Oh, dude, that was a funny thing, like getting people to subscribe to the podcast at first.
Yeah.
It was like my family, obviously, the first people to reach out to, right? Yeah. I'm not ashamed of it. But when your sister goes on and not just rates you 5 stars, but she comments, not Carmen's sister, There's something inside of me that died a little bit.
Sure.
And I wanted to strangle her, but also I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I don't even really know where I was going with that. I just wanted to call her out publicly.
Yeah. No, I definitely dealt with that, and I'm past that point now with my channel, but like I definitely got a lot of comments, and my mom's gonna watch this, but I'm gonna call her out anyway. It's just like when she comments like, "Oh, this is great," you're like, "Thanks, Mom." like I'm not mad that you commented, but I'm like, I hope nobody is seeing that and laughing, because like it's your mom, and it's like, of course you think it's great,
right.
But I want to know what everybody else besides you thinks.
Exactly.
Because you're gonna think anything I do is great. I'm gonna hand you like like when I was a kid, you'd be like with a crayon on a piece of paper. I could have done anything, and I'm like, "Oh, great job." I'm like, no, it wasn't. So it's same thing with the movie too. Frankly, when like there was plenty of people at the premiere that. Or not premiere, sorry, the private screener. Because if I say premiere, it's a whole different legal thing. But, you know, different people saying it was good weighs a different amount, you know? And so, like, when some people say it, you're like, okay, cool, I'm glad you liked it. And I mean that. But then when some people, like, I've got friends that are also artists, and so they're critical, or people that are, like, film buffs, and when they say it was good, then you're like, okay, that means a little bit more, you know? And so, I mean, it's good, too, that non-film people will enjoy it, because you don't want to make a movie that only nerds will like film nerds will be like, oh.
I mean, I probably would have loved that.
Right. But at the same time, you want to make something that
some reach.
Everybody will enjoy. And ultimately, I made the movie for me, which I think as a creator, no matter what area you're in, you should be making it for an audience of one, which is you. Mm-hmm. But you still want people to like it. And so having people who have never watched a horror movie before go, oh, that was cool, that was scary, is like, all right, good. But then also having somebody who's watched so many movies, like, you know, I keep bringing him up, but Eric, the guy that I do a lot of stuff with on YouTube, when he goes like, hey, that wasn't bad. You're like, okay, cool, good. I'm glad.
Adam liked it. Adam hates everything.
Okay. See, he didn't say anything to me, so I didn't know.
No, he did.
But
he said I really liked it.
Okay. I don't remember.
This was when we cut you off. You were talking with your fans.
Yeah. Okay.
No, when we were leaving, or maybe he said it to me. Either way, he said he liked it, and I was like, oh, okay. I thought Adam was going to dislike everything, every movie.
Good.
I mean, he would probably argue with me if he heard me say that, but I feel like his taste in movies is very different.
Here's the thing I took away from it was nobody disliked it, at least that I could tell, which is a plus. Like, I mean, I wasn't expecting everybody to be like, that's my new favorite movie. But, you know, nobody was like, well, that sucked. At least if they did, they didn't say it to me. Maybe my editors, maybe Elemento, like Logan and Mitch, those guys.
Have you talked to them since?
They sent me a text, but they left pretty quick, I think, because they needed to get home. But, so, I mean, maybe they hated it. I don't know. And if they did, oh, well.
Was that their first time seeing this cut?
I mean, they've been editing it, so they had seen that. But I did make some changes after they gave it to me. And I told them, like, so the guy who was working on the sound, he gave me a lot of stuff. And I was like, okay, but I want to try my own way of dealing with it. Because we were working with, and this is really technical, so I'm sorry we're boring everybody, but we were trying to get rid of the sound. So we were doing like a high pass, a low pass on it, trying to get rid of it. And I was like, yeah, but that kind of like cheapens the sound. So instead of just doing that, why don't we actually go in and splice out? It will take a lot longer to get rid of like these wobbles and these background noises, but it'll make the rest of the audio sound richer. Yeah. And I'm sure you heard while watching it, some of the scenes sounded like they were on a phone, and it's like it's not good. Some of them, I wouldn't have said film, but some of them were different. Yeah. But you said something in the beginning that the audio was still doing some tweaking, so there was obviously some grace there, but. Yeah. It was nothing that like wasn't what I was expecting when you said that. Sure. It was just like little tweaks here and there. And so I'm sure I offended him by like kind of removing what he did, but it was like, and I know like I don't want to offend anybody with it, but ultimately it's still yours. It is my movie. Yeah, you know, and when people say it's bad, it comes back and reflects on me more than anybody. It sure reflects on everybody in the movie, but my name is the first name you see in the credits. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I don't want to change anything to piss anybody off, but like, I need to worry about my reputation first and foremost. So if like there's these scenes where I'm like, it sounds bad, I have to go in and fix it because it's me. It's my name. So it's my movie. And so the older I get, the easier those decisions become.
of not caring.
I'm not old enough then,
to a degree.
I guess. Because I was hard. Like, I was so afraid of pissing people
Maybe
off.
it's because you have to do it in life. And then eventually you're just like, I think I really am just okay with doing this. Because like what you just said is a valid reason to just do it.
Yeah.
And the guilt disappears eventually.
Yeah, it hasn't yet. I'll get there, hopefully. But yeah, no.
This is very recent.
I was like, yeah, I didn't want to offend people, but I was like, I needed to get it to a place where I could be proud to show it. And I think I did get to a place where I was proud to show it with that caveat of this isn't done. Mm-hmm. And so now for the next month, hopefully that's all it will take. I need to then get to a place where I'm like, okay, I can show this to somebody at Sundance and not be like ashamed that I'm showing it to them because they're judges. They see, like Swiss Army Man went to Sundance. I need to try to get to a place where my movie can stand next to that and not be like... It's like if you've ever seen like that meme where it's like the swimsuit models and then there's just like this middle school girl standing with them or whatever. Yeah. I need to not look like that girl, hopefully. And it's not body shaming. I'm sorry. It's just I want to get to a place where like if I am showing it to whoever,
you feel like you're a part of it. You feel like you belong in that line.
And so, and I know that that's not where I was when I showed it, but that wasn't the goal. My goal was to.
This is also your first film. For your first film alone, just even looking at remembering that.
Right.
It's incredibly impressive.
Thank you.
Where it's at.
I appreciate that. And that was something to try to keep in mind too, where it's like, I'm not comparing myself to Citizen Kane. I compare myself to other movies made in this budget area. And frankly, this movie was $20,000. You look at other low budget movies, in case you don't know, like, so a normal budget for a movie is $100 million. You talk a low budget, you're talking 10 million, 1 million. This is 20,000. It's not to be compared to that. If you want to compare it to a movie, compare it to something like Primer, if you've ever seen that.
What is it?
It's called Primer. It's one of the more famous like no budget movies. So when you talk about 20,000, it's not considered low budget. It's considered no budget. No budget.
That's just like physically what you need.
Right.
You're not like getting anything out of it.
And so like you could compare it to what I was trying to compare it to mostly is my favorite director of all time is Christopher Nolan. His first movie is called Following. Filmed in black and white. It's under 70 minutes long. It's actually 69. I don't know if he did that on purpose, but hey. And so it's and there's no professional actors. He filmed it with his friends on weekends over the course of a year.
Oh, I love that.
And it's a good movie, but it is what it is. I think he filmed it for like $80,000 or something.
Is it streaming anywhere?
I don't know, but I have it on DVD if you need to borrow it.
I would love to see this.
So it's enjoyable, but it's like I'm going to compare myself to that, not Inception, or The Prestige, or The Dark Knight. And when you do that, you can kind of like hold your head up a little bit and be like, I'm not saying I'm better or even as good as that, but I can be mentioned in the same conversation and not be ashamed.
Yeah.
And so it's like when you're dealing with the confines of this budget. I complained to several people there. I was like, yeah, the special effects look like shit. I know that. And we did all practical. There's no budget for CGI or anything close to that. But it's like if you remember the budget, you can be like, okay, well, we're fine, And my goal was to look like a movie that was made for a few $100,000 instead of $20,000. I think we succeeded. Like we overkicked our coverage here. Like we obviously don't look like a multi-million-dollar movie. And I don't think anybody would be tricked into thinking that. But if you told somebody it was made for $20,000, I think they would have a double take because it doesn't look like that either. It looks like somewhere in between. And so I can be proud of that because, like I said, we overkicked our coverage. Like we did a really good job with what we had. And I'm proud of that. I really am.
I keep thinking back on Clerks. I'm trying to think because I wonder how much that was.
A few $100,000. Like it's.
You think they spent that much on that film?
Yeah. It's hard to make them, especially back then because they're shooting on film. You have to keep that in mind. It's a lot easier to make movies now than it was then because everything's digital now. Everything's cheaper now. But
can you imagine editing your film on film?
No. I would not. You think about the phrase copy and paste. It's like, because literally that's what they had to do. And I'm like, I don't know. What? I don't know how to do that.
Dude, watching like how you had to splice things in and like cutting it and lining it up. And,
yeah.
I
think about
terrible.
The film, the original Invisible Man, which is from, I think, the 30s. I forget what year. But how they made the Invisible Man invisible was they went in and hand cut out his body out of each scene, each frame, and then pasted. That's where that term comes from. You use glue to then glue his outline, like his body without the head and hands, and they would paste each frame then onto the other shot that they took of that room. I'm like, I can't comprehend how hard editing used to be.
Dude, and that's every frame.
Every frame, yeah.
How many frames per second do you think old film was?
It's similar to what it is
like,
now.
What,
now
29 to like
24.
60?
24 is the average. This is the normal. Anything above that, it's weird because humans can see, I think it's up to like 90, but once you get to 60, people get queasy watching it. And I don't know why that is.
Interesting.
But so movies since I think the 40s or 50s have been 24, and we've just stayed there, other than movies like Avatar or whatever, like high budget or high CGI stuff. We've moved out of that a little bit, but people don't typically like it. But so ever since like the 30s or 40s, it's been 24. But if you go to like silent films, like, you know, when they were really choppy, it was, I think, half that, like 12 or something. But typically it's been 24 for most of the film. Yeah.
Still crazy though.
Yeah.
Imagine doing 24 that 24
frames a second. So if you've got a minute of The Invisible Man, which it's not, it's just a few seconds.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. But if you had a minute of The Invisible Man at 24 frames a second, you're spending months doing that. That's why when you look at like old school Disney, when every frame was hand painted, it's like, yeah, that's why it took 8 years to animate a movie.
It makes me wonder where we're going, like to a point where like I can see that 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line, let's say, whatever handheld device we're using, whether it's a cell phone, whatever it is.
Yeah, people are doing it now.
Sure,
movies on cell
you
phone.
can do everything on a phone and it look beautiful.
Yeah.
And like auto doing, like things being auto done, like auto CGI, like through AI. AI stuff is
a big topic right now.
Insane, dude.
Yeah.
And how could it not be? I mean, that's I like that. That's a good finish. That was good. I like sounds. Yeah, dude, AI, man, has freaked me out, but also excited me.
It's both, because I see a lot of like painters on Twitter are really mad about AI art, and I'm like, and I get it as an artist, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't think AI will ever be able to replace human art.
Oh, how can you think that though?
Because maybe not for paintings, but like for movies, you're never going to be able to make something that means something.
I fully believe that if AI is looking at everything that we've already made, I mean, it can look and say, all right, somebody was just recently talking about songs, how they can write their own song.
Sure.
They could look at,
I saw one about Kissing the Homies Goodnight. That was a great song.
I didn't hear that one. No. Like most of them are goofy now.
Sure.
But look at what, like, if you know what's actually happening behind the scenes to get this goofy thing that we're laughing at, it's incredible.
That's fair.
It can go through everything that's on the internet. I don't mean just like everything.
Everything that exists.
And you could say, I want a 90s hit song, top 40 or top 30. It'll then go through every single top 40, top 30 song before you can even like blink your eyes. It looks at everyone, breaks down every song, knows the tempo, knows the lyrics, knows everything, and knows how long it was on that chart. Yeah. So then you can actually make a song specifically on the chart at that specific, like to where the beat matches that. I mean, it knows the final product might not be there yet.
Yeah.
But it knows how to mimic things that we've already done. And all art is a recreation of something that's already been done, right?
Everything's been done. Yeah.
So AI is just the next step in that. I don't see where that ends.
Somebody put into one of those AI machines just like the title, most important image a human has ever seen. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
The image it came back with was a child who was, I think, crying or just like bowed down. And they were being like comforted by this dog, but the dog was a robot. And I was like,
that's so creepy.
From the perspective of a robot, because that's what AI is, seeing itself as what we view dogs as, which is like a pet / companion / comforter.
I didn't think like that.
And I was like, oh my God, the implications of this. And I'm sure from the perspective of AI, because AI is not actually thinking about it, but I'm like, you can add so much meaning to it. And so that's my perspective on AI art, is it's never really going to be able to replicate the meaning. But we already, as consumers, add our own meanings to it. Okay, during my lifetime, because that's all I care about. What are
we in our minds, right? We are a buildup of things we've already seen and already learned. that we are
We're
AI.
going so far from filmmaking.
We are a bionic AI.
Yeah, sure.
AI is us without the bio or whatever.
Artificial
Would that be
intelligence.
the difference?
Yeah. So are we organic artificial intelligence? Are you saying
Organic, that's what I meant.
So you're saying that I'm artificially intelligent? I'm not
We are
actually intelligent.
in organic intelligence. They're in artificial intelligence.
Sure.
It's still gaining. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I ruined it.
You're absolutely right. Where it's like, I mean, have you ever seen like the picture comparisons where it's like the solar system versus what the neurons in a brain look like?
Oh, I thought you were going to say what NASA tells us is the solar system. With their fake photos.
No, I'm not a flat earther.
I'm not a flat earther, but they have definitely faked some photos. As somebody who believes that we've been to the moon and believes in a lot of these things, I think that they do a little injustice when they get caught actually making fake things. I will say that.
Well, it's not like it's a fake thing. Well, it is a fake thing, but it's a simulation based on what we know.
Yeah,
it's not like they're...
Say that, and I'll love it. I'll say this is a beautiful simulation. But don't say, hey, this is it.
They typically do. It's just people taking stuff out of context.
Maybe.
I'm not trying to diss NASA right now.
That's all right. I thought that's where we were going.
No. I was not trying to be any sort of conspiracy theorist on this podcast, but yeah, no, it's like when you see like the comparison, it's hard not to wonder, at least, like, are we just the thought in a mind? Because when you see the solar system in contrast to what like a scan of a mind's neurons look like,
I have not seen this comparison.
It looks like we're in a mind, and it's like, what does that mean? What is it?
So
are we
weird.
in the mind of a being? Are we in the mind of a deity?
If you're listening, pause this and go look this up, because I'm going to do it when I'm listening back.
I'm definitely not making anything up. I'm definitely not misremembering anything. Because I definitely wouldn't do that. But yeah, no, it makes you wonder. And I mean, so going back to art, that's what we were talking about originally. I don't know that AI will ever be able to, and maybe they will. Maybe I'm speaking out of my ass, but like, it just, to me, I don't know that we'll ever be able to design a computer system that will be able to actually have genuine thought on its own. That won't just be something we've input into it.
Out of all the things you could have said, you just shut me down. I can't dispute that. That's a very big possibility.
But then you could ask, does any human that exists have an original thought, or is it something that society has given to it?
No, that's a good point. But what I was going to add to it is, when it gets to a certain point, could you tell the difference, and who cares?
Who cares? That's a great question. I don't care.
I don't care.
I mean, if AI made a movie that was Nolan level or Kubrick level or Hitchcock level, and I'm watching it and say that the AI itself doesn't understand what implications it's making, but to me, I take something out of it, who cares? I took something out of it, you know? And that's the same thing when an artist makes something and we add our own meaning to it. I'm sure I've watched plenty of movies and added some personal meaning to it. I've talked about it actually before with Bo Burnham. A lot of what Bo Burnham has said, I know it's deep on its own, but I've added things to it that he didn't intend, I'm sure, because he's said that before in interviews where he's like, people constantly add meaning to stuff that didn't have any meaning. And I'm okay with that because to me it meant something. Mm-hmm. And so if an AI computer system is doing it, who cares if it still has some sort of application? When you say,
or benefit the society.
Right. I was like, well, it's not art because a computer made it. Okay, well, you can look at the earth and say it's art. A human didn't make it. So are you implying that only things made by humans are art?
That's a good point.
Anything can be art.
I've seen an elephant draw a painting. Or draw a tree.
Sure. I've seen monkeys do it.
And it was beautiful.
I've seen plenty.
It wasn't beautiful. It was being nice.
I mean, it was something.
It was something.
It was something. So, yeah. So, I mean, I get it where artists get scared because they're like, okay, well.
That's what I think it is. I think we're speaking out of fear. And I think we are okay to be afraid of this.
Sure.
I think it's healthy to be afraid of it.
Right.
But we don't believe in a lot of things until we see them.
Right.
So, like, I wouldn't believe that what we're doing here is possible, and to sit here and do this, you know, and I don't think a lot of people just 50 years ago would have thought that somebody in their own home could do what we're doing here.
Right.
But this is so basic nowadays.
It's simple, yeah.
But it's because we've seen it.
Right.
The first time you see something, that awe, that you have in looking at something that's grand or just mystifying. It's something new.
It's like when people talk about the pyramids being made by hand, and we're like, how could you possibly do that?
Because I feel like you're itching to go down a rabbit hole of conspiracy. The things you're bringing up right now.
See, the thing is, I like to say that conspiracy theories aren't real.
They're fun, though.
And I agree, they are fun. But I think most conspiracy theories can be immediately shut down by just simply asking the question, why? Mm-hmm. That answers.
No, you're right. I mean, obviously some of them are true, but who knows?
My point with that though was like, we because now we have machines to make stuff. We can't possibly fathom doing that by hand. Building a pyramid by hand, except for when it comes to the pyramids that like the Aztecs made. And I think that's racism because we're like, sure, a Mexican could build that. But when we talk about the Egyptian pyramids, we're like, that's impossible. So like, it's funny to me because it's like, you think like every time we think something is possible or not, we're just basing it off of our own experiences and we're not taking into account thousands and millions of years of other people's experiences. So I agree with you when I talk about like, oh, that could never happen. I'm talking out of my ass. I don't know. But I kind of just, at the same time, when it comes to art, I think we're just too afraid of what we don't know. I mean, that applies to life in general. And I think we should just embrace everything as it comes along.
In fact, going back to the painting that you're talking about, or the picture that it made with it showing itself as a dog, I think of a dog as a companion. In our lives as we're creating, as artists, as creators of any sort, having a companion with that level of intelligence and ability, I find to be very useful. I would love to have a companion to that level of tech.
Yeah. Imagine if the movie Her, have you seen Her?
I was leading up to it. Dude, that was the first time where I thought, oh, I see how this happens.
Yeah.
Because before that movie came out, we've all talked about AI. I've heard people joking about dating AI when they showed like the sex robots and things like that.
Sure. And it was always a joke.
But that movie made it to where I saw it and I said, I could be him.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
And I, on some weird level, desire that interaction.
Right. Because it's something that feels controllable. It feels something that's like believable. And I know obviously if you've seen the movie, the end of it is that it's not sustainable and that it's not a good thing.
Oh, so sad.
But like it makes you believe it and it makes it seem real and it makes it understandable. And I mean, part of that's just fantastic acting by both Scarlett Johansson and Joaquin Phoenix.
So good.
But it just genuinely, like when you portray it that way, like you're like, I get it. Maybe I wouldn't, date my phone, but I get it at least. And so it's a movie that's very hard to like say, hey, you should watch this, and they'd be like, what's it about? And you're like, well. But when you actually watch it, you get it, and you're like, okay, no, that is good. And
do you have an iPhone?
I do.
Do you use Siri a lot?
A little bit.
I used it.
She's kind of a bitch.
I use it kind of a lot. Yes. Well, mine's a man.
Oh, okay. The Australian man, by any chance?
It is an Australian man.
Wow.
I didn't want a woman telling me how to drive as a joke, so I changed it, and it's been like that for years.
Fair enough. Hate backseat drivers.
I don't actually hate women. But, it was like, I totally lost it. I find myself often being polite and using manners with AI. Sure. And this is like a very basic like response. It's like a command and response type of AI. It's not really AI. It's just this robotic voice. But I find myself saying thank you or asking it questions and then responding as I would to a person. Right. And I used to feel funny about it. Now I just don't care because it just feels natural. Yeah.
I had an experience with that where the only time I use Siri is when I'm driving because I don't like using the voice commands because they don't work very well, at least when I do it seems. And so the only time I do it is when I'm like, well, I can't grab my phone right now, so I'm going to do it and be like, hey Siri, like, sorry to everybody's phone, I just messed up right now. But like, hey, what is this? Or I need directions to this or whatever. And for whatever reason, because of it being hooked up through the car, it doesn't work most of the time. And it works better when you're not attached to the car. I don't know why. But so I get mad at it every time I use it. And so sometimes you're just like, you stupid bitch or whatever. And it responded, said, I don't respond to that word. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, so you just instinctively, all right, well, I won't say that anymore. And it's weird because it's like you start treating it like it's a living thing, even though it's not. So, yeah, I mean,
But I watch my kids, how they interact with it. Like, they just know that saying, hey, Siri or hey, Google will activate it. But the way their mind works, sometimes they'll come up to my phone and go, oh, hey, Siri, can you put on some Blippi for me? And, like, the way they talk about it is they talk to this phone or this assistant as they would ask me, Dad.
Right.
And I'm like, man, what is it going to be like to grow up around this stuff?
Yeah. Because
we just talk to it normally. And as it progresses, it's just going to be more natural just to speak to these things as though they're people.
Because we've lived without it, so we know what it's like. But, I mean, everybody being born now hasn't. And, I mean, I bring up Bo Burnham again, but he's talked about how concerned he is about, you know, people who are just living with this all the time and what it does to your brain. And we could go down a whole rabbit hole about psyche and how it's affected by it, but it's very interesting. And so I don't take the fear approach to a lot of this. I definitely want to approach it with caution, but I'm more intrigued by it than afraid of it, because no matter what we do as humans, as we evolve, as we create, as we destroy, we're always creating good things and bad things simultaneously. I mean, the internet is a perfect example of that. There's so much good and so much bad in it. And a lot of people want to talk about how bad the internet is or how bad cell phones are and all this. And there is a lot of bad in it, but there's so much good in it too, that I just think we should approach everything with respect, fear, and caution. But I don't think we should, you know, be afraid of progress because maybe it'll lead to something that's bad. I mean, sure it will, because it always does, but there will also be good in it too. So, I mean, like, something as abstract, and I know we're so off topic here, but that's going to happen.
Bring it back.
As something as far bad as you can go as, like, the invention of the nuclear bomb, you know? A good thing that came out of that is it stopped the Cold War, because we're like, if we keep going, we will destroy everything. And so now we know that the actual use of the nuclear bomb would destroy everything. It's prevented wars in a lot of ways, because we kind of just are like, hey, we could end the whole world right now, so let's not pursue this conflict.
That's such a terrifying thought.
And so it's like, yeah, it's the worst thing that humanity has ever done, but at the same time, there is an element of good in it, and I'm sure a lot of people listening will probably think that point's stupid. That's debatable. But like, I want to choose to believe that there is good in no matter what circumstances. So when we talk about AI and AI art and all this, a lot of people are approaching it in fear. And I'm like, why not approach it as something cool? Because I don't think it will ever entirely replace humans creating art. There will always be humans creating art. And just because I've seen a lot of artists on, like, Twitter specifically just terrified and hating AI art, like, and I know that it does, because it's just it's searching the web, and so it's kind of like stealing art from people, or at least inspiration.
They're no different than we all are.
But we all take in what we see, and we all create what we see. And so I don't understand why you're afraid of it, because we are all going to continue to create, and as consumers, we will continue to take what we want and then use it. So I don't know, if we get to the point where there's AI created movies, if there's a good one, I'll watch it, and I don't care.
So you would.
That doesn't make me as a filmmaker insecure, because I'm like, I'm still making art on my own. I would approach it the same way as somebody else making a movie. Just because it's a person versus a machine doesn't change my perspective. It's not like we're, you know, think of it this way, like, obviously now a lot of things in mass production are made by machines. That doesn't devalue the person making a handcrafted table.
Absolutely.
Just because you've got IKEA, you know, pushing out these cheap ass tables a million times a day. You've still got the people making a handcrafted thing. So if you want it, you can go find it and you can put the money toward it. Is it more expensive? Yes. Does it require more effort? Yes. But it is a different product, and people know that. So I'm not worried about a computer making a movie, because one, it might be cool to see. I don't know. I'm not worried about that. But also I know that if we get to a point where people have also talked about social media influencers, you know, YouTubers and Instagram models and stuff, they might all be fake in the future. And I'm like, maybe, or maybe we'll just coexist and we'll just figure it out. And I don't know. It doesn't worry me. It intrigues me.
I think the thing that worries me isn't so much its ability, it's the authority or power that something like that is given.
Okay.
Because
right.
through convenience, it might be given a platform that could be dangerous, at some point.
Sure.
Like, I know everybody wants to bring up, like Hitler. But Hitler's a good example because Hitler didn't just say, I want to be this mastermind of evil and then just did it. He started out providing something that people wanted. He was voted in. Then his ideas failed, and he kept taking step forward in a bad direction, and a worse direction, a worse direction, a worse direction. But people started by liking him, right?
Right.
They loved him. They voted him in,
mm-hmm.
and they gave him power. And then with that power, evil was done. So again, I know that that's a stretch. But just to see that we have a habit of doing these things,
sure,
that's what spooks me, is elevating AI to a degree where maybe it's got a handle on some of our nuclear weapons or our defense systems or anything like that, to where even just a malfunction, let alone something malicious, that's where I start getting nervous about AI taking over. But I don't see how it doesn't reach that point. Not the negative point, but
right.
I don't know how it doesn't completely take over. Like the internet changed the world. I don't know how AI isn't going to be the next internet.
Sure. But if you think about it, and this may seem stupid to say, but it needs to be said, Hitler was a person.
Mm.
So people are just as capable of being corrupt and evil and stupid as AI is, because AI is just the reflection of a human that made
exactly.
it. So that's why I'm not worried, because I'm just as worried about it as I am about somebody stupid being in power.
I just don't want to cheer it into power without some constraints.
Yeah, sure, and that's fine. But that's why I'm like, I'm not worried about it, because I could spend all this time being worried about, all the politicians that are constantly having pissing contests, because that's all politicians seem to do. You look at people like Putin, and I'm going to pick him because that's the least likely person to get me, canceled. But
you don't love him, right?
No.
You're not going to pull a Kanye on me?
No, I'm not. But it's like everything he does, and people have speculated that he's actually like secretly dying of cancer or something.
Yeah,
so everything he's doing is like trying to like leave a legacy. But it's like that's all these politicians are doing, is they're trying to be remembered for something.
Oh, it's all about that.
And that's all humans as a whole are doing every day, is trying to be remembered. And so we do a lot of really stupid things. So when you say like, oh, well, AI could do something stupid, I'm like, yeah, well, humans are just as likely, if not more. So I'm not worried about it. Yeah. Well, I should be worried about it, but I just choose not to be, because if I was worried about humans making stupid decisions, I would be worried all day, every day. Yeah. So I don't know.
No, you're right. All right, let's segue back into film.
Let's talk about things that...
Do you have a favorite scene? Not like an elaborate scene, but like a favorite scene?
Yeah, but
one of them.
I can't talk about it because it's a spoiler. But I'll just.
No, not of your film. In general, films.
In general.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, that's a tough question.
I know. I don't mean your favorite, but like a favorite. We all have many favorites.
Yeah, let me try and think about that for a second. Favorite scene. God damn. You should have given me these questions ahead of time.
I didn't think about it. In fact, it's really part of a second segue. I'm baiting you. I'm baiting you at the moment.
A favorite scene. I'm like drawing a blank. Okay, this isn't my favorite scene, but it's the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah, go for it.
And it's kind of related to something we talked about earlier. The opening of Reservoir Dogs, when you've got all of those criminals in the diner, and they're just talking about nothing. And that, like I said, it's not literally my favorite scene, but we talked about like natural dialogue earlier. And one of my biggest inspirations for writing natural dialogue is Tarantino. And people have complained about his dialogue because it's like, oh, it all sounds like Tarantino talking.
I love it.
I don't care. It sounds like conversation.
Yes.
And
to me, he's the master of it all.
He is.
Of that.
And his dialogue is quirky, it's weird, but it sounds like conversation. It doesn't sound scripted. It sounds like something people would talk about, like they're arguing about tipping.
Yeah.
And and so yeah, I mean, if you gave me a week to think about it, I'd probably come back with a better scene or a different scene.
I wanted to know something that popped in your head.
But that scene means so much to me because it's like, I don't want to write dialogue that sounds like, all right, well, we need to get from A to B. We're just talking, And I mean, another example is like Rick and Morty, because so much of that isn't scripted. And I'm not even really a big fan of that show anymore.
I'm like obsessed.
I haven't watched it in a while.
Let me just say the newest season might be their best season.
All right, maybe I should get back into it. But my point being, like, the amount of like knows and like just and stuff in there, I love. partially it's because they're ad-libbing a lot, but it just sounds like conversation.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound scripted. And so that's, the stuff that I try to recreate while writing my stuff. And so going back to that scene of them talking on the beach or the scene of them talking while watching the movie, I wrote out a conversation that I had with myself because I wanted it to seem natural. And granted, I am both people, so I dictated where the conversation went, but I didn't want it to sound robotic. I didn't want it to sound scripted. So, you're just talking to yourself. And maybe I'm insane for talking to myself out loud, but a lot of people do that. We just don't like to admit it. And so I think that helps a lot. Like, there's a famous clip where Harrison Ford, I think it was talking about George Lucas's writing. And he was like, have you ever read this out loud to yourself? It doesn't sound right. Like, you can't say this. Like, you need to say it as you write it. And so that's what I really tried to do while writing was like, can I say this? Does this sound like a conversation? And so a lot of what I wrote, Josephine, who played Rachel in the movie, we did a lot of rehearsals together over Zoom, and where we had the conversations, and I'd be like, is anything hard to say? Is anything just weird? And so we worked through a lot of it that way, but a lot of it just started with me saying it to myself out loud. And so
it's interesting. Yeah. It makes sense.
I take a lot of inspiration from Tarantino and how he wrote dialogue. Same thing you could say about Pulp Fiction, where they just murdered a guy and then they're talking about burgers,
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I love how that dialogue flows. It doesn't feel like a movie because, if you're watching a movie, especially from that era, early 90s, late 80s, and it's like, we just killed a guy, you'd be like, yeah, we're tough guys and we're gonna do shit. We're gonna, fuck shit up and blow stuff up. And like, no, we're just talking about burgers. And that means so much to me because it means more when they don't care about what they just did. They just killed a guy in cold blood, and they're not worried about it. That means so much more in the subtext. Plus, it sounds like a conversation that would actually happen. So, yeah, I guess I'll pick Reservoir Dogs.
I always liked his portion of Four Rooms in the end when they go up to the penthouse suite and Tarantino's playing, the main role in there. I love that conversation. And like, it's just such an intense scene and so bizarre. I'm like, who sits and thinks about this? Like, was he coked up? Was he on like how many drugs were you doing to make this scene? Because
might be autistic.
or were you autistic? You're either on tons of drugs or you're autistic.
Yeah.
Because no, like, I don't want to say normal, but no, like, average human being can write something like that and to that level. And that goes for so many of the scenes. Right. Like, for me, it's not so much a technical thing with scenes. Sometimes it is, but like the first one that popped in my mind, and I didn't prepare for this question either, is there's a scene in the when they're riding in the bus in the movie Almost Famous, and there's a lot going on in the film. And there's a lot weighing on this kid, and he's like, he's got school that he's bailing on, but he's also traveling with rock stars, and like he's not just like writing for Rolling Stone, like he's a fan of the band. Like this is this dream come true. But then there's this beautiful moment where he's like teetering on like what should he be doing, and then Tiny Dancer starts to play, and you think it's just a background song, but then it's actually playing on the bus, and they all slowly start singing it into the I get chills. To me, scene. That is probably my favorite scene of any film in any moment, like anything captured on film. I could watch it and it'll change my whole day, my whole experience.
Have you seen? Sorry to shift here, but have you seen Before Sunrise?
No, never even heard of it.
Okay, watch it. So the plot of that film is you've got this American man and this French woman who are on this Euro train. He's doing a tour of Europe. And she's traveling from one country to the other for like work or something. I don't remember. But so the plot of it is he convinces her after they sit together and talk for a little bit, like, hey, this is my stop. Get off and we'll spend the night together. Just not to have sex, not to whatever crazy thing. We're just going to spend the night together and then we'll never see each other again. And so this movie, I'm forgetting the filmmaker right now. Richard Linklater made Boyhood as well. And
okay.
And so all the plot was written, but like none of the dialogue is. And you can tell how real and how genuine it is. Like in particular, the one scene that you reminded me of is they're in a bar and they're playing like that one arcade game. I forget what it is, where it's like you've got the ball and you're
Like pinball?
Pinball.
Okay.
They're playing pinball, and they're talking, and, like, she loses pinball in the middle of the conversation, and it makes her, like, lose track of her thought. So then she's like, ah, damn it, and she moves out of the way, and he takes his turn, and then she kind of has to, like, restart her thought, but it's all one take. And, like, I love that.
That's awesome.
Because it's like, that's humans. Yeah. That is how we interact. And so that movie is like, they called it all like soft improv because the ideas were already present and they knew where the conversation wanted to end up, but they didn't know how they were going to get there. Like the whole conversation actually with him convincing her to get off the train with him was improvised because the actress told Ethan Hawke, played the main character, she told him, I'm not going to get off this train until you convince me to. And so he had to come up with a good enough reason to get her to get off the train with him. And so that's another one of those scenes where it's like, it's just amazing because it's so real. And so, like I said, my movie is completely scripted. There's very little improv in it, but my attempt in writing it was to be able to at least resemble real life in that way. And maybe I'll come up with a movie where we can improv a little bit more. I've been thinking about that. I want to do a movie where it's like 90% non-scripted.
I think that works best with comedy.
Okay,
well, you get funny people.
Comedy, but
oh no, I mean like for
for
non-scripted.
Yeah, it's easier because drama. I think people are scared to just be in drama. With comedy, it's like, oh well, it's fun because we're just coming up with stuff on the spot. But with drama, people are afraid to just let it sit and do it, and that's why Before Sunrise is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's practically perfect.
Oh, I can't wait to watch this now.
You watch it,
especially after Mr. Nobody.
Yeah,
your recommendation, because I watched that years ago and didn't think anything of it, but I just didn't get it. I don't think I was paying attention. But watching it again after you brought it up,
right?
And this was recently.
Yeah,
dude, it like rocked me.
Yeah,
I was tired for work the next day because I stayed up so late to watch it. It was worth every second.
It's funny because I like get mad at people when I'm like, because I recommend movies to people constantly, and sometimes people are like, I don't know. I'm like, have I ever recommended a bad movie to you? Just watch it. I'm sure you'll like it.
I feel the same way. I'm very particular about what I recommend.
Right. Yeah, but no, yeah. I actually watched Before Sunrise soon after finished filming because it seemed applicable to my life at the time where I was just like, and I don't want to give anything away about it, but like the whole concept alone of like, we're going to have a moment in time that we know is finite. It's going to end. But we're going to embrace the moment as it is and just live it out to its fullest in that moment. I was like, I really need that right now. Because, I mean, finishing a movie is very sad. I mean, granted, you've created something, but it's kind of like a relationship ending where you're like, yeah, the relationship was good, but does it mean anything now that it's over? And it's like, yeah, it does. It still does. And it's okay that it ended because everything that's ever existed has ended at some point or will in the future. And so it's kind of like after you finish filming a movie, you're kind of like depressed a little bit. Like
a breakup.
Yeah.
When you start romanticizing it. Do you think George Lucas romanticizes Star Wars? Is that why he keeps going in and destroying it?
Probably. He's afraid to let it go.
I like torturing him only because he upsets me so much that I can't find the original cuts.
I actually just saw an interview with him recently where he's talking about like he had no plans for sequels and he probably won't ever make any. And I was like, well, Disney changed that. But yeah, no, so I was like, it was a really important movie to watch at the time I did, and it was such an amazing movie. There's actually a couple of sequels, and I'm like, I'm afraid to watch them, because I'm like, I don't want them to change how I lived in that moment when I saw that movie. But yeah, I mean, and even just applying that to relationships is so powerful, because when you break up, you kind of feel like nothing in that relationship matters. It's like, that's not true. Every relationship ends. If best case scenario, you both like live to 100 years old together and then you die at the exact same time and it's beautiful and it's lovely, but it ended. Everything ends, and that doesn't mean it didn't matter. So that movie to me is so therapeutic.
Oh, I definitely watch it.
And because like I just think being okay with the concept of things ending and that not meaning that nothing about it mattered. It's a hard concept for humans as a whole. We're very bad at accepting the fact that things end for whatever reason. And, like life, but also events. Like we just don't accept that well. Like at least me, I think most people. But me in particular, like, I hate goodbyes. I hate endings. I just want things to keep going. You know, I'm a big fan of the Irish goodbye. If I'm leaving, I won't say anything.
I want to be. I can't do it, dude. I so bad want to be able to do it.
And so it's like, just to see something tell me, like, hey, and same thing with her, because her has a very similar message. It's like, just because it ended doesn't mean it was bad. And I think thinking about it, and once again, spoilers for her if you haven't seen it, but like the whole point of that movie is like, we evolve, we change, we update like a computer does. And sometimes that means when we update that the software is no longer compatible. And that's just a part of evolving. That's a part of growing. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes it just happens. And so it's like, I mean, I'm single right now. I've never been in a relationship that's lasted my whole life. And I think that's very important to then look back on those relationships and say, well, they weren't pointless. You know, they meant something to me. Or even sometimes when you're not in a relationship, you just like, you almost are. I don't know if you've ever been in one of those like almost but not reallys. And I've been in a couple of those recently where it's just like, I don't have to pretend that didn't mean anything. And maybe it meant something more to me than it did to them. But that doesn't invalidate what I felt, what I went through with that. And I can take those lessons, I can take those feelings and appreciate them. And so that can apply to art, that can apply to life, it can apply to anything. And I think it's beautiful. So a movie like Before Sunrise was exactly what I wanted to see. And we also talked about Look Both Ways, because that movie really talked about like, well, maybe you feel like you're going down the wrong path, which can feel like when something ends.
Oh, I did watch that. Okay.
Yeah. And it's just, that movie is a really great way to say like, that's not true. Like,
I loved that.
Oh, it's so good. It's such like a Hallmark.
I would have never watched it if you of all people didn't mention that.
Shout out to Josephine again, because she's actually the one who told me to watch it.
Oh, cool.
And I never would have watched it either. But she's really into those like really cheesy movies, I guess. But she's like, but this one's good. Yeah. I'm like, if you say so. And then I watched it, I was like, yeah, damn. It was. So yeah, I think it's really important to just like, that perspective on life is so good. Like, and I've never had that really before. I'm really trying to learn that this year, of just allowing things that end to still mean something, you know? So, yeah,
that's great.
And applying that to the process of making this movie, and like, okay, it's not done now, but it kind of is. And just be like, well, but you got a lot of
just another chapter.
Great. Yeah.
There's another scene I was thinking about when I first asked you that. Have you ever seen Goodfellas?
Yeah.
So there's that famous scene when they're cooking and he's cutting the onions with a razor, really small. The only thing I cannot remember is, what were they making?
I don't remember.
It was like, it was an Italian dish. There was tomatoes.
Right.
Some sort of noodle.
I mean, it's Italian. Sounds right so
I
far.
think they were making. Say it.
I don't know.
Say it.
What?
What do you boil? I wanted you to say spaghetti.
I was
All right,
about
let's do this again. What are they making? He's chopping up onions, and he's the garlic. Do you remember what they're making?
I don't know. Lasagna. Spaghetti.
Oh, spaghetti. You know, speaking of spaghetti, I have some spaghetti upstairs.
Ziti? You've got
no,
ziti?
just, I can't tell you. It's a special spaghetti.
Ravioli.
That's a special spaghetti. And I had told you to come here with a little room in your belly.
I did. Definitely made
We're not
more
ending the
room by adding
podcast. We're definitely just, this is a little treat we're going to do here. We're going to try a spaghetti, and we're going to give it a rating. All right, now the rating system.
1 out of 10?
It's going to be 1 out of 10 gabagools.
Oh, gabagools.
So it's going to be 1 gabagool, meaning this is disgusting. I would never recommend this.
Sure.
I'm repulsed.
Right.
10 gabagools is, man, this takes me back. It brings memories, just even from the moment I'm smelling it to letting it go down into my belly. I'm living on a cloud, right?
Right.
That's 10 gabagools.
Slap your grandma just to get it.
Yep. All right. So that's the gabagool rating system, and that's what we're going to rate this on. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you that you cannot give it a 0 gabagools.
That's off the limits.
Okay. There's no such thing as no gabagools.
Right.
Everybody gives at least 1 gabagool.
Sure.
Don't be fooling yourself.
All right.
I'll be right back. I'm going to go heat it up.
Am I supposed to talk into the camera while you're gone?
You do whatever you want. I'm probably going to edit this little part out. But unless you want to give some feedback, I'll leave it going.
So.
All right, you got to pee?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that.
All right. Welcome back.
Thank you. I went through a little movie magic, and it's going to be like I was never gone.
Sure.
All right.
All I was saying was that Joe Biden was a lizard.
Oh, yeah. Dude, see, you're baiting me. You're baiting me. All right, everybody. Here we go. Let's move this out of the way. This other camera sitting here was for this moment right here. Okay. So, have you ever heard of Jollibee?
No, I have not.
Okay, my buddy Mike was living out in Hawaii.
Okay.
And he was telling us about this fast food place, right, that would sell spaghetti.
Fast food spaghetti.
Fast food spaghetti.
It's bizarre.
I know how much I've craved spaghetti before at like a diner and thought, oh, I'm just going to do it. I just want the spaghetti. And you get it and it's like, there's something that it's like they sprayed the noodle with Pam.
Yeah.
Right? And just anything that you could spray a noodle with or soak it in to make it so that it's physically impossible for any flavor or spaghetti sauce or gravy, whatever you want to call it, will stick to the noodle. And then when you get to the bottom of the bowl, if you are that courageous, you realize that it then turns into soup. Because then it's just a soup. The second half is soup. It's like a transitioning meal.
I'll be honest. I've never ordered spaghetti anywhere, not even Olive Garden.
I did it once, and I'm really bitter about it at a diner. So anyway, Jollibee was out in Hawaii, and my buddy Mike had sent us out some pictures or whatever of one of their products. And I was like, I have to try that. Is it worth flying to Hawaii for? The answer might be yes. I don't know. If it's 10 gabagools, the answer was yes. But we're not going to find out because they moved to Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
And it was a grand opening. And I had my brother actually pick this up right before he got here. They waited for about an hour in the drive-thru because they said they were going through Philly and it was like this dirty, grimy area. And then
what, Kensington?
Jollibee pops out and it's like beautiful, this beautiful new establishment that was popping off. 45 minutes to an hour in the drive-thru. Feast your eyes on Jolly Spaghetti. And before you try it, I want to actually where's my phone? There it is.
The hot dog slices.
So wait, oh, you could tell what it is? I thought they were little pepperonis. Let me read how they advertise this. So if you ever see a Jollibee, this is what you can get. And it is, here, I'm going to put this back on here for you to see. Okay. This is called Jolly Spaghetti. It's and this is their words, our unique spaghetti topped with Jollibee's signature sweet style sauce, loaded with chunky slices of savory ham, ground meat, and hot dog. Why they chose hot dog to go on top of spaghetti?
I mean, I did that when I was a kid, I feel like.
Really?
Well, did I?
It reminded me of that TikTok thing. You ever see where they take the raw spaghetti and they stick it through the hot dogs and they cook it? That's what this reminded me of. And I was like, no, this wasn't supposed to be a real thing.
Yeah.
I was going to get us nice forks and like a silver spoon. That's how I felt when I opened up the bag just now. So
wait, your friend said this was good.
Yeah.
Are you still friends with him?
Yeah. He's really excited that we're doing this.
I'm scared.
I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit.
What kind of cheese is this too? This isn't like Parmesan. This is like, it looks like...
Oh, it's like cheddar or something. Like a melted... Dude, every choice that they made in this is bad. But I don't want to judge them yet.
I didn't even get any noodles on that.
You gotta get the noodles, all right? You want to cheers? Okay. Right, are you doing the spin move? Can it even do that?
I don't know. I'm scared.
I'm getting a Chef Boyardee. I don't know why I said it like that.
Chef Boyardee would blush if he saw this.
Cheers. I don't know why I went so big. Okay, it's not 10 gobbles.
I would keep eating it.
I'm not rating it yet.
I would keep eating it.
I'll tell you what. If I was knocking back a couple more glasses of this, I might be really excited if I remembered that this was in the fridge. But I'm not there right now.
Yeah, give me like.
I'm gonna give it a little bit more. It's not 10 gabagool, and it's certainly not 1 gabagool.
No.
I still question their direction of the hot dog.
I wonder how they cooked it.
Oh, the hot dog?
Any of it.
Prepackaged. You think the sauce comes prepackaged and then the noodles come prepackaged?
I'm confused by everything.
But the cheese is fresh. The cheese is actually made in-house.
very curious what sober Simon would think about this. Because tipsy Simon's like, it's all right.
I hate that I'm not as turned off by this as I thought I was going to be. I'm almost embarrassed to rate it above a 1.
Right. Yeah, no, it reminds me of, like, every time I get drunk, my first instinct is like, I should go get a bundle box from McDonald's. This is reminiscent of that. Where I'm like, I know it's bad, but I kind of want to eat it.
Oh, dude. When I used to black out back in, this is like back in 20s, or in my 20s. I used to, I don't know if I was ordering it or picking it up, but I'd wake up and on good days I'd find the food, but I would order food or buy it and not touch it. And by the time I found it, it was spoiled. Often I'd find it when the smell came in my room. Have you ever done anything like that?
No, I eat.
Like sleep ordering?
I just eat it.
It's like I never got to enjoy it. I was probably so excited waiting for it to come. And then it comes and I decided to hide it. Like I would find it hidden under my bed or under a pile of clothes. I'm like, this was intentionally put here. I didn't just not notice it when I was throwing laundry on the floor. I specifically hid this.
The closest thing I have to that is one of the first, it's like, this is going back to like my first year on YouTube. I tried to order, I think it was Domino's while doing a drunk review, and it was just caught in like the stage where they're like, we're quality checking it. It was stuck in quality check for like an hour.
Oh, that's scary.
And I was like, it's being checked by Megan. And I was like, Megan, what are you doing? I just want my food. You just open the box, go, all right, there's pepperonis, there's mushrooms, send it out. Yeah, I'm going to go with a 4. I feel like a 4 is appropriate.
A 4 what?
Gabagools.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
We're on the same ratings. Because if we're not on the same rating scale, your 4 can mean something different than mine.
4 stars is totally different than 4 gabagools.
Is this like a solid 4 gabagools?
Like, this is like, I'm drunk gabagools.
Man, I still don't know what I'm going to do one more bite.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give my rating. But I'm not
Who is
really
this
that
from
mad.
again?
Mike. He's the one.
Mike.
Mike Frolic.
Are you okay?
Oh, he didn't recommend this.
Oh, never mind.
It was like a joke. But I took it as I need to try this.
Parmesan would go a long way.
They don't have it.
I mean, do you?
Or pepper flakes. I don't. Jenny just used it in a soup or something she made.
Parmesan would go a long way. Anything can be made better. Like, that's like how I treat, like, when you get really bad pizza, you just put Parmesan on it and it's okay.
You know what's making me not hate it, I think? Is the base gravy. Yes.
Let's be honest.
All right, I'm gonna shut it down for now. But
we'll revisit it, I'm sure.
I'm probably gonna this is why I probably need to be closer to the 4 with you, is because I'm gonna probably finish that.
Exactly, yeah. And it's a shameful revisit, but I will.
I want to give it a 4.
You're getting anything at us.
But I've had so many good pastas. Oh, you know what though? Where would I rate Chef Boyardee? SpaghettiOs.
4, 5.
I do like them, even though I know they're not good.
Right. That's
Maybe
how I feel about this.
I'm all right, based on that.
I know this was bad. I didn't like it. But I'd go eat it.
I'd go back to this. If I was driving and I was like, damn it, Jolly Bees.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get some Jolly spaghetti.
The thing is, okay, so let's just
All right, hold on. I'm going to just lock this in real quick.
Yep.
I'm going to give this 5 gabagools. Sorry, I tried to be a little ambitious, but it's the alcohol. I'm going to do 5 gabagools.
Sure.
Because I neither hate it or love it. Sure. It really is in the middle. 5 gabagools.
Yeah, so like going through like point by point. The cheese choice is confusing. So I can't.
You know what's interesting? Once we started eating, did you even notice the cheese?
I didn't notice it, but I noticed the lack of like good cheese.
Yeah.
Where I was like, there's nothing there. So I'll say the noodles, they were cooked.
They were cooked. And there was no like little dry, you know what I'm talking about?
Crunchies.
Yeah, crunchy ones.
The
like
sauce
uneven.
was sweet as opposed to like savory, which I know some people like. You know, like some people like Pizza Hut pizza for some reason. And they're like, oh, the sauce was sweet. I'm like, well, then you did it wrong. So it's sweet, but like that's the thing where like the alcohol likes the sweet So I'm okay with it.
I was going to say, that's kind of what saved it. But if my mom was making spaghetti dinner and she gave me a sweet sauce, like, what is this? But this kind of saved it for me.
Yeah, so it's like this, the pasta itself, it tastes like it was, well, you did microwave it. And so I can't hold that against it because it did taste microwaved. But you did do that yourself. I don't know how they cooked it there because they probably microwaved it. Like, I mean, how else at a fast food place are you cooking pasta?
I want to know if they have the sauce as one thing and they just sprinkle some cheese on top. Because obviously the cheese is not mixed up. Like, is there a pot that they have that looks like chili with hot dogs and they're like, oh no, that's our spaghetti sauce? What if they also had chili and you order it and it's just their spaghetti sauce? It's just a spaghetti sauce.
They just add some beans in? Like, yeah. What I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, it's not good.
Or you find the same thing with beans and they're like, oh shit, we gave you the chili. My bad.
Sorry, our bad. It's like, actually, this is a funny story. After I finished filming, so as part of like, because we're getting in a whole another direction here. Before we started filming, this is actually back in August of last year, I was in a car crash. I know it sounds like it's completely off topic. It's not, I swear. So I got in a car crash. I've had brain trauma and I've been dealing with it ever since. And so when we were done filming, I decided I was going to take a week to go into like the middle of the woods in Virginia. And part of that was I wasn't really like doing anything. I wasn't on social media. I wasn't on my phone at all. I also wasn't really like eating much. I was like living off of like tuna and random shit. And so when I decided that I was done and I broke my fast, if you will, I went to, it was in Virginia, so they didn't have Wawa. So I went to Sheetz. And I ordered, like, they had like this cheeseburger on the menu. I was like, that looks good. And I ordered all this stuff. They gave me the wrong order, which was like chili dogs. And I'm like, at this point, I don't care. I'm like, I'm taking what they gave me. And so I broke my fast with chili dogs that were the worst chili dogs I've ever had in my life. But I was like, I don't care. That was what this tasted like. Dude. And it's spaghetti, though.
You know what Sheetz reminds me of? Or it makes me think, like, their mood, if you were to describe Sheetz to somebody who's been to Wawa, I would say, like, all right, if you go to a Wawa, on like a normal time of the day, let's say, like, 5 o'clock, right, around dinner time, sure. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and you were to order, like, a massive amount of food that's terrible for you, you'd probably be judged. Oh, what is that? All right. I feel like both the people making your food and the people that watched you ordering your food wouldn't. Well, yeah, they'd hate you and they'd judge you. They think like, what a slob. This slob. So. I feel like if you go to Sheetz and you do the same thing, you're like, oh, I'm going to get some mozzarella sticks. Oh, I'm going to get this sandwich fried of chicken fingers. Oh, and some fried Oreos. Yeah. Oh, milkshake. Oh, I don't know which one I want. I'm going to get two. I feel like you'd start to gather a crowd, kind of like when you're at a casino winning and you get a crowd behind you, but they would be rooting you on, like, yeah, do it. And you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe a hot dog. And they're like, get two hot dogs. Yeah. They would be rooting for you to the point where, like, they would be cheering. They'd want to get your email and contact info to know how the night went. How did the next day go?
Dude,
that's joke. How I feel. Like, they encourage dying from overeating.
So, like I said, it was Virginia. Yeah. Virginia's like the beginning of the South. It's not quite South, but it's kind of South. So, if you're from the Northeast, you know, people don't talk to people. You leave each other alone because that's the polite thing to do. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that in the South. They think you want to talk to them. So I'm in line waiting for my whatever I ordered that I didn't get. I did get fried Oreos in that order, which...
They're delicious. Hard to mess that one up.
See, I didn't like it. Oh. But I don't like sweet things. Like, I prefer savory. But anyway, the guy in line just wanted to talk to me like he'd known me. I'm like, I've never met you before. I just want to get my food and get out. It was such a culture shock just even being in a Sheetz. Like, imagine being at a Wawa here in Philly and then, like, somebody's like, hey, so, like, whatever. Unless you're talking about the weather or the Eagles. We're not talking.
If it's more than one sentence, right. I think they're trying to get my pants.
Or they want money. They're trying to get you to buy something.
Well, my pocket pants.
And if it's a wallet. Yeah, and so I'm just like, he was talking to me about, like...
Pants pocket.
I don't even know. Like, he was like, yeah, it's just like, yeah, so this girl, like, I've been talking to. I'm like, I don't care. I do not care. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, sure. And then I get the wrong food. I'm like, this was the worst day of my life. But hey, I mean, I ate food after not really eating anything for a week, so it was fine.
Yeah, Sheetz just like I said, like they feel like they encourage you gaining 400 pounds. If you weigh 400 pounds, they might even have like a secret membership program.
Yeah.
Maybe like when you walk in, like it secretly lets them know on like a little weight pad.
It's weird because like if you say like, well, Wawa represents Philly and Sheetz represents like Pittsburgh or whatever you want to say, you'd think, okay, so Wawa is ghetto. But no, Sheetz is like the ghetto version of Wawa.
Big
for
time.
Sure. It's so ghetto.
Like Wawa is very particular about the things they add. In fact, I feel like they've been adding too much and they're starting to lose me. Like the adventures that they're going on and some of the foods, I'm like, you need to slow down.
Good.
I have had it.
Their burgers are good.
It was good.
It's not like when they tried pizza. It's not like when they tried cheesesteaks.
Oh,
those were mistakes.
I liked the one pizza, the jalapeno one, but I never considered it pizza. To me, it was like a flatbread. It's like a flatbread, yeah. And it was like okay.
Makes it better, yeah.
But I also didn't want to spend like $10 on it.
Okay, so speaking of awful pizza, I went to school in California, and we had pizza day once a week. It's like Wednesday or something. And they would have, pepperoni. They'd have cheese. And then they had pickle mustard pizza.
What?
It was just pickles and mustard. Just, like if you got like a buffalo pizza and
I know people put mustard on the pizza.
Ranch,
I don't get it.
Like in the stripes across the slices. Just imagine that as mustard instead. And then there's pickles.
Did people eat it?
Not really. They also had like roast beef on their pizza sometimes. They did occasionally try to make cheesesteaks. And I hated it.
Here's a mistake that I think every time I'm traveling and see cheesesteaks on the menu that they make.
You assume they're going to be good.
Well, I don't. I never assume they're going to be good.
That's probably smarter.
Adam, this is totally off topic. Adam one time traveling, I think for work, ordered a cheesesteak, and they kept asking him, he's like a cheesesteak. And they brought him a steak, like a T-bone steak with a slice of cheese melted on it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was a funny thing. Anyway.
I do have funny cheesesteak stories as well. If we're on this topic.
Yeah. But the one thing though that I always notice, and I feel like it's a mistake, is like for me, when I think of a cheesesteak, I think of Cheese Whiz. And if you don't like Cheese Whiz, that's fine. But if you were to say like, what's the staple of a cheesesteak? It's chop steak with, provolone or Cheese Whiz. Either one would be fine. And maybe fried onions. I prefer fried onions. And if you wanted to like really go a little extra, mushrooms,
peppers, maybe.
Okay, the sweet peppers is where you start to go into a different level to me.
Sure.
I don't think it's bad, but I don't think of that as a cheesesteak. Yeah. It's probably Well, here's the reason why is because when I see it, it's always with sweet peppers and onions, and when I get it, it's basically a sweet pepper and onion sandwich mixed with chopped steak.
Okay.
And that's what bothers me so much whenever I see it out at a diner or anywhere that's not in this like tri-state area.
Yeah, word of advice: if you're anywhere but Philadelphia or New Jersey, because New Jersey has some.
New Jersey kills it with pizza, cheesesteaks, everything.
They're okay because if it's South Jersey, South Jersey is Philadelphia, North Jersey is New York. So if you're in South Jersey, you're fine. The only place outside of Philadelphia and New Jersey that you can order a cheesesteak and not die is Capriati's. There's one in San Diego and there's one in Las Vegas. That's your only place you can go. That's the only place you can go. That's it.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that they're great, but they're okay.
They're making a good effort.
They're trying.
Good.
Like they import bread from here. Like they're trying. I mean, it's going to be a week old because they imported it, but they're trying.
Well, they should get Amazon Prime, man.
But okay, so I lived in California for a few years, and so there was a Subway right across from my school, walking distance, literally like a block away. And they, at the time, were trying really hard to do cheesesteaks. And they called it the Philadelphia Cheese and Steak
Cheese
Sub.
and Steak. I feel like I have more respect just for calling it that.
Philadelphia Cheese and Steak Sub. I never ordered it because I saw that and I died. But then I also went to, there was a Jersey Mike's in Colorado. I happened to be in Colorado, and there was a Jersey Mike's there. And we were ordering hoagies there, or subs, as they called them, because they're not real. And On the menu, they had a Philly cheesesteak, and already just calling it a Philly cheesesteak as opposed to a cheesesteak, you know it's bad. But one of my relatives was there, and they questioned, like, so what's the cheesesteak? Like, what do you do? And they're like, oh, well, we can do this. Do you want it hot or cold?
No.
I was like, if it's a cheesesteak.
Did you make it hot and set it aside for a while? Because sometimes finding it cold later is good.
Yeah, and I don't know what they did. I don't want to know, because whatever it is, it's against the Geneva Convention. It's a crime.
I don't even know what I don't understand, because you have to cook the steak.
Right? Is it a cold cut cheesesteak?
Oh, dude, I think Adam recently ordered something like that and got a cold cut.
That's just, I want to murder whoever invented that.
That's disgusting.
It is.
Now, I've had a cold cheesesteak that was prepared hot.
Sure.
And it's like, it was a great cheesesteak to begin with.
Yeah, it's like having cold pizza. You know it wasn't intended to be that way, but you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
No, they made it that way.
Huh. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't want to know anything about it. I don't want to know.
I don't want to know these people.
Oh, man. AI, you know what? Maybe AI will get rid of people like that.
Yeah, AI will.
Since AI is going to cover everything on the internet, that means they're going to come across this podcast, and I hope that they listen to this and realize how despicable these people are.
They'll know that people who make cold cheesesteaks are on par with Nazis and Kanye West.
Deplorables. That's the truth.
The dumbest thing I've ever said in my life. It's all right.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Let's go back to actually talking about the movie, though.
We can.
Okay.
All right.
So, what I wanted to do, we can avoid spoilers or we can get into spoilers if you want, but, like, if you had questions about the movie, I'd love to answer them, because I know immediately after the movie ended, I knew it was one of those movies you need to see multiple times to get what's going on.
Most of my questions would be spoilers, and I still don't want to do it. I want to have you back on once it's available, even if it's next year.
That could be like 2 years from now, dude.
Don't say that.
It could be. Let's just do it now. I don't care. I don't care.
I'm not ruining it. I won't do it. I can't do it. Right. I don't want to ruin it. Because I know that there's no way for them to see it. And so if they want to listen past this, I don't want to cut people off from listening, is the big thing.
Yeah, but I just think it would be good content. We can cut this part out.
To ruin it? You're going to ruin and cheapen your thing?
It's not ruining it if the people that...
I can't do it.
God damn it. All right, you better cut this part out, because if this part's in there, I'm going to be pissed.
It's 100% going to be in there.
Damn it. I don't like him, just so you know.
That way you could blame me. I'll be your scapegoat.
All right, sure.
You know what it is too? Like, I will say this and we'll get back into it. Like, if I'm excited about a film, I won't even watch the trailer. In fact, if 10 seconds into the trailer,
I still haven't seen the trailer for like Whale, by the way.
Oh, I haven't. I saw it. I saw like a teaser or something. I started watching. I was like, I can't. Now that I know I'm going to be able to see it and it's going to be here soon.
So, I mean, this is a spoiler for my YouTube channel. Every year I do like a top 10 movies or whatever. The only movie that may be possible to like dethrone Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that movie was amazing. The only movie that I think might be able to be number one ahead of that is The Whale. And if it's not, okay, that's disappointing. But like,
I'm just happy for Frasier. There's something so personable about him that I love, and I want to see him on top. Fraser.
Don't say Frasier or
Fraser.
Everybody's been saying his name wrong his entire career.
Brendan Fraser?
Fraser.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brendan.
Yeah. I love that guy.
It is Brendan, right?
Brendan. Yes, not Brandon. Brendan. No, I'm in love with that man. Since George of the Jungle, I've been in love with that man.
I like growing up. Dude, I hate this. I loved Monkey Bone. I loved Monkey Bone as a kid.
Sure,
that movie was hilarious. I mean, I probably shouldn't have watched it as a kid, but I thought it was fun.
I mean, why not?
I just like him. Yeah. Bedazzled. That was like my first hot rod.
Okay.
So do you know the premise?
No. I don't
know he meets this like beautiful, sexy woman, and she is the devil. And she gives him, I think it's 10 wishes.
This reminds me of my dating history.
Yeah. So like every wish gets twisted. So I'll give you 2 examples. Like he wishes to be rich and powerful. So then she snaps her fingers or whatever, and boom, he's Pablo Escobar right before he gets raided and killed. Right. So yeah, he was famous and powerful, but he's now about to die. Right.
Okay.
And then, like, one time he wants to be, like, really good at sports, right? Mm-hmm. So, what was it? Oh yeah, he wanted to be really good at sports, so he becomes like this super tall athlete, and he's like getting interviewed in the locker room by this like really beautiful girl who like is a sports newscaster. But anyway, and he takes his towel off, and you could tell by the reaction that his penis is like very, very, very small.
I mean, I saw the Jungle, so I don't think that's true. But I mean, just based on that shower scene, I just don't think it's true.
This is the devil's doing. She gave him that.
Oh.
She gave him everything, but then made him like she made him the most intelligent man on earth. But he was then gay, and like wanted to be with a man. But the whole thing was that he was trying to impress this girl that he liked.
Bad thing.
What was bad because the premise was that he wanted this girl, but he was a nerd, and he thought that he
right. It's also
is
a
that
90s
age-old
movie,
story of like, oh, I need money for this girl to like me. I need to be cool or rich or famous. So every time he asks, he's in his life, but he's this person and trying to go after the girl. Like she was the news commentator or person interviewing him. She was the wife, but hated him because he was Pablo Escobar or something. And she was someone who was into him, but he wasn't into her because he's gay. The devil was just screwing with him. Anyway. Sure. I don't even know why 90s. I spent so much time explaining this.
It's the 90s.
It's a really fun little film that I really liked, and mostly because he was just so enjoyable in it.
Yeah, no, I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because he was like typecast into that like goofy, lovable guy. People thought he was like a bad actor or whatever, and then he disappeared because he was blacklisted. But I've loved Brendan Fraser his whole career, and to see him like come back and people like be like, "Oh man, he's a good actor."
I love how humbled he's been, like in tears. Like I love it even more.
The best thing, like I'm so stoked for him. Like I can't wait to see this movie. I don't care if it's shit. I will be in the front row opening day. I'm so stoked for it. Like I mean, as a filmmaker now, like I've got a list of like dreams of like people I want to work with. Things I want to do. He's at the top of the list. Like I hope to be able to work with this guy. He's so cool. Like I just love everything about him. Like
I hope he blows up from this again.
Yeah, I hope.
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of hype. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if IMDb's got a bunch of projects already.
And like, there's so many people in Hollywood that like, even though they're celebrities and they're putting on an act, you can tell that they're shitbags. This guy, he seems genuinely cool. Like, I mean, we talk about Keanu Reeves like all the time. People are always like, "Oh, he seems so like a nice guy. He's down to earth." I'm like, cool. He also can't act. But like Brendan, sorry,
I'm not expanding on that at all.
But Brendan Fraser, like I just like I look at him like he seems awesome. Like I want to work with him, and so honestly, he's like at the top of my list. Like it's like Christian Bale and him. Like I would love to work with him. He seems so cool. Like I've loved everything I've seen him in, and I know like George of the Jungle. I keep bringing it up. Like is it a stupid movie? Yes, but it's like intentionally so. It's one of those movies that was like they knew what they were doing. They were trying to make a dumb movie, and they succeeded in every way. It's one of the funniest movies.
I think that movie's great.
It's so good
for what it is. It's not for adults and movie critics. It's for kids. I loved it as a kid.
Right, and even if you're like, it's also but clever enough written that like if you're the adult of the kid that's watching it, you're laughing your ass off too. Like it's so good, and that's something that I think is often lost in most children media today. It's still in some stuff, but like Pixar or Disney and stuff back in the day when they're making stuff for kids, they're also making it in mind, knowing that like the parents have to watch it too. And I think George of the Jungle, especially as like somebody that's into film, like there's so much like stuff that's like self-referential, like self-aware stuff, and it's so good at that. Like
now I want to watch it again.
Yeah, like there's stuff that my family has been quoting for years or whatever, where it's like they're just like not even like they're not breaking the fourth wall. The fourth wall doesn't exist. They're just turning the camera and they're like saying like, "Hey, this is the part of the movie where we all throw back our heads and laugh. Ready?" And then everybody's like, "Ready?" And then they laugh, and it's so good. I love that movie. I really do. Completely unironically, that movie's great. It is. It really is. Yeah, I don't believe in the concept of guilty pleasures. Like I enjoy that movie.
I think that's just the way that, like for me, when I talk about a guilty pleasure, it's because I don't want to be judged on liking something. So I want you to let you know, like this is on a different level.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, I get that, I do, but at the same time, it's like, if I have a reason to like something, I have a reason to like something, and I can explain it. So George of the Jungle, I know it's not Citizen Kane, but it's not trying to.
I still never seen Citizen Kane. We talked about that last time.
Oh my God.
You're not the only one to reference this. This is like referenced everywhere, and I've never seen
Citizen
it.
Kane like 3 times on this podcast already. And I mean, I get it. Like, actually, a lot of people don't like that movie, but it is considered the best movie of all time, and I'm one of those people that consider it that. But my point is, like, that movie is very pretentious in a lot of ways. And something like George of the Jungle, or I also, whenever we talk about guilty pleasures, I like to bring up Without a Paddle, if you've ever seen that.
It's a classic.
Matthew Lillard and Seth Green and all of them. I know what it is. I know it's not trying to be, and since I keep saying Citizen Kane, I'll say something else like Goodfellas or, Godfather. It's not trying to be those. It's trying to be what it is. But I'm not guilty about liking it because it knows what it is and it succeeds at what it is. So I think it is really dumb when people like try to compare. Like, I mean, sure, for me personally, I'm not a big fan of the MCU. I'm not. But if you like
They're
those
losing
movies,
me real fast.
If you like those movies, though, at least the good ones, I don't hate you for that because they're not trying to be high art. They're trying to be, as Scorsese would put it, an amusement park ride. And
they are.
And they are. And
I
that's
don't know
fine.
why he got so much crap for that. I thought that was a great explanation of what they are.
Yeah, it is. It's extremely accurate. So it's the same thing with George of the Jungle. It's a popcorn flick with very much the tongue jammed all the way into the cheek. Like, it is very tongue-in-cheek. It is very referential, self-referential, and it's very stupid. But that's why it's great. Same thing with, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but the new Weird Al Yankovic movie, so good.
No, you talked to me about it. I didn't have Peacock or whatever it was on. What was it on?
It's on something that's free.
But I tried to watch and I couldn't.
What is it on? Whatever it is, it's free though. You just have to
Tubi.
download the app. Tubi. It's free. It is free. It's just with ads.
Maybe maybe that's what it was. Dude, you know how much I hate ads? Walmart Plus we just signed up for, which was awesome because, with running around in our work schedule between Jenny and I, it's a lot for Jenny to go out food shopping. Like, I have to stay home with the kids, or she has to go run out with the kids. It might seem like a little thing, but it's annoying and it's not always easy. Nap times. Amazon Plus is not an ad for them, but Amazon or Walmart Plus was like $99 a year, and they deliver the food, anything over $30, which we're a family of 4, it's going to be over $30, and they deliver it for free. So I like it because I can add stuff throughout the week, and then Jenny will put the order in on whatever day, and then all of her food comes. It saves a lot of time. With that, they give you a free subscription of Paramount Plus, which is over $100 a year. Right. So I was like, that's a no-brainer. We had Paramount Plus for my sister. So I set up the account. I tell my sister, delete your account, use this one. I send her the password. I'm all excited that we don't have to pay for it. And
but
then
it's free with ads.
It's free with ads.
Yeah.
But it gets worse. There's no way to upgrade. How in the world do you sign a deal like that where you're going to have millions of people signing up to your platform through this and not give them an option to pay more? I was like, I would love to pay the difference, or even $5 a month versus $8 a month, right? Or $10 a month for if I pay for. Okay, charge me half, $5 a month. Huh. That's extra money in your pocket. There's no option.
It's because they just want you to pay the full amount.
It's stupid because they even say in there is an option when you're signing up for it. Do you already have a Paramount Plus account? And I clicked on that to see, like, oh, maybe they'll just make my sister's free and I can keep all my history and my algorithm. Mm-hmm. And it said, no problem. Delete your old account. And then it had a link to how to delete your account and then how to follow theirs. And I was like, how mad I would be if I deleted my account free of ads, signed up for theirs with ads, and then had to go back and do it all over again.
You know what else is dumb?
Screw you.
You know what else is dumb?
No, you, Simon. What's dumb?
I want to eat that spaghetti still.
Go for it. Let's bring it. I don't care.
It's fine. It's fine. It's just like, that's the quintessential thing we were saying is like, it's bad. We know it's bad. We gave it a 4.
There is a good aftertaste. It's still there.
But like,
it's a little spice.
It's the perfect drunk food. And there's definitely there's a market for that with fast food where it's like, there's some fast food that's good when you're sober.
Yeah.
Not a lot. If you consider Five Guys fast food, sure. Five Guys is good no matter what your state of mind. McDonald's, I would never choose to eat McDonald's when I'm sober. But when I'm drunk,
oh man,
that shit's good.
I don't know.
It's good.
Fresh out. They have to hand it to me right after they made it, and I have to eat it before I even leave the drive-through section.
Right.
And that's just a double cheeseburger.
When does that happen?
When you go there when they're busy.
Okay. I see. I have that happen with like chicken nuggets.
It's either good or stale.
They never have enough chicken nuggets, and like you have to wait extra time for the chicken nuggets. Is that okay? I'm like, absolutely. But yeah, no, McDonald's I would never choose to eat sober, but if I'm drunk, yeah, it's the best thing. Best thing.
No, I agree with you on that. There's a lot of things like that.
That's how I feel about the spaghetti right now. It's calling to me.
Nice.
That is the best thing it's going to get from me. That is my absolute highest praise.
I think that's great.
For me, is that I want to eat it right now.
I'm trying to see what else they have. There's a bunch of things they could check off on the side of the box that use this box. Spaghetti. What is that? Palabok Fiesta?
I definitely feel like I've seen, like, what? They've got, like, a bee is
Palabok Fiesta.
Is their thing? Spaghetti.
And chicken dippers.
What is Palabok?
Palabok Fiesta. I don't know. Is that a fish? No, that's like pollock I'm thinking of.
They have a bee as their, like, mascot. I feel like I've
He's
definitely seen him before. I feel like I've seen him before. Anyway.
Yeah, he does look familiar. I don't know. I've never heard of Jollibees, though, other than the one out in Hawaii.
I would have guessed they had chicken for some reason.
They do.
Okay.
It's chicken and spaghetti. It's fried chicken and spaghetti.
It's a weird combo.
Fried chicken and spaghetti. Dude, I don't get it. But it was so intriguing of like the fact that this is like a real establishment.
Yeah.
And they're making money and they sell spaghetti. So I was like, I have to try it.
Yeah.
I don't regret it.
Sure.
So let me ask you about the movie. So
absolutely. Yeah. I was going
to say keep saying it's going to be you keep saying it's going to be like it could be years. That's because obviously you want to send it to festivals and things like that.
Right.
Whenever you're able to release it, are your thoughts going to be dependent on the reaction, or is your end goal to be to put it on YouTube? Because you have the YouTube channel. I know you've been updating everybody and your subscribers. Is that an option?
It is. It's not the ideal option. I mean, obviously, I've been doing, like you said, the updates on YouTube and stuff, and if that's where I have to fall back to, I'll do something with that channel and stuff. But I mean, I would like to keep my my review stuff, and my actual content, as in the movie, separate.
That makes sense.
I think like it feels to me at least different qualities. Like, I mean, my reviews and stuff, I definitely put effort into it. I'm not saying like that's cheap or it's not good, because I do think, I mean, I put an effort into it and I think it's high quality, but like there's a difference between YouTube quality and movie quality. So I would hope that this movie is good enough that I could get it up somewhere more important than that. Like, obviously, if I go through the cycle of taking it through various festivals and then it gets bought by, I don't know, throwing out Sony as a name, but like it doesn't matter. Whoever buys it, then they would put it up wherever. Like maybe even do a theatrical run with it. But if that doesn't happen, then putting up to Netflix or Amazon, because I've actually looked into that as options.
Amazon would be cool.
It's not hard. It's really not. Like, if you've ever done music and you've had your stuff put up on Spotify, it's essentially the same thing with getting your stuff put up on Amazon. So that is the fallback plan. But I mean, I could put it on YouTube if I wanted to, but I'm trying, like, to me, it's a whole different animal.
Hearing you say that, it's almost like I could have probably come to that conclusion myself. I just didn't think of it like that, because for me, I'm seeing a lot of these people who are extremely established. They put something out and they're going to make more money than a Netflix deal. Right. Like Ari Shaffir, a comedian, just put out his stand-up and it's doing great, and all these other people doing stuff like that. I'm mostly thinking of comedians, not too many movies. But that makes a lot more sense. The Amazon thing would be pretty cool.
It would
to
be.
Do that.
I mean,
and then it's a way that anybody that wants it could do it and support you through the purchase.
Right, or even if it's Netflix, I mean, then you're just getting, based on how many people are watching it, you get like, it's not ad revenue, but like based on their subscription, then you get a percentage of it. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it's kind of like Spotify when people pay for premium and then they listen to your song. It's essentially the same thing. So I haven't looked real in depth into it, but I mean, I'm not trying to put it up on YouTube because I think not against YouTube, but I think it's better than that. I want it to be viewable to people outside of that sphere, where I'm like, to me, this is a movie. It's not just something to throw up on YouTube.
Those people that have been putting that stuff up, and then the fact that you've been doing updates on there is why I was thinking that. Yeah. But it also would end it would probably put a halt on it going any further, right? That would kind of just be like the end.
Yeah,
of
it's
that.
kind of admitting defeat, where it's like this is the best it's gonna do, and so like I could then like myself personally put it through, like I could make physical media with DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever, but I'm trying. I believe, and maybe I'm wrong here, but like I believe that it's worth having it be sold. I do believe that about it. Like, I am proud of it.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
And I think that it's something worth audiences outside of YouTube seeing. And so when I say, like, I think it will make it into festivals, I mean that. And I'm not trying to say it's Sundance worthy. I don't know. Maybe it won't be. But it's, to me, I think it will make it into something. Like I was mentioning the Philadelphia Festival. They're big fans of local.
That's what I was going to ask, if there were some local festivals that you were interested in. Because I would love to, if it made it anywhere that I can travel to, I would love to go see it again in that atmosphere. And
I would love that too. And they're big fans of like supporting local creators and stuff. So I'm going to definitely try that if it doesn't get into something bigger, like, you know, Sundance or Tribeca or whatever, which, like I said, I'm not counting on that. I would love that. That would be the best case scenario, because if you make it into Sundance, you're basically, at that point, somebody's going to buy it, you know? If you make it into Philadelphia, you don't know if anybody's going to buy it. You kind of hope that, but you don't know that. So, I mean, I'm just kind of waiting and seeing at this point. You'll just see what happens with it and play it by ear. And I mean, I'm confident in it to an extent. Like I was mentioning earlier, like movies that can get into Sundance are like The Swiss Army Man, which, you know, had Daniel Radcliffe in it. And I mean, at the time, the Daniels who made it weren't anybody special, but then they went on to make Everything Everywhere All at Once. So it's like, yeah, is it as good as that? No. It's not. I'm just being honest. It's not. But like at the same time, you're hoping you can at least, because they accept, I think, somewhere up to like 100 movies or whatever. So maybe that's the best movie, and maybe I'll be the 120th best movie, whatever it is.
That's actually a lot of films.
It is. It's a lot. Yeah. But they receive like thousands of submissions. So you just hope to be one of the ones that they watch and they're like, yeah, this has something to it. So I'm not picky. I'm not like, I don't have demands that I'm expecting for this movie, but I don't want to undersell it by any means, because, I mean, as a creator, you're always going to be the most critical one of your own work. Like, I mean, I watch my movie and I'm constantly picking it apart and nitpicking it and stuff. And I think part of that is, no matter what art you're creating, you always have an idea in your mind of what it's supposed to be. And it's never going to be that, no matter what. And there's this really famous story, actually, with like Spielberg making Jurassic Park, where there was a very famous scene in that movie where you'll remember it, that the T-Rex is walking and the cup of water is shaking. Mm-hmm. That wasn't what he wanted for that scene. Originally, what they wanted was the rear view mirror to shake. But for whatever reason, they couldn't replicate it right. And so it didn't work out. So they're like, all right, just grab something that will look good on camera that we can make shake. And so they went with...
It's like such an iconic scene, too.
And it became iconic. And so to me, and I'm sure to Spielberg, when you're making something, you're like, damn it, that's not what I wanted. But the audience doesn't care. They just see the final product, and they're excited about it. And like, that's cool. So I think that's why, as a creator, you're always the most critical of what you've made, because you know it's not what you had in your mind. But that doesn't mean it's not good. Mm-hmm. It may feel that way, but that's not the truth. So
it was a bit of letting go at that point, right?
Yeah, you have to just kind of let it go. And we were talking about earlier about having the editors have their input on it. And, I mean, there's some tug of war with that. Like, my editors kind of were like, we should take out this scene. And I was like, no, we can't. And we went back and forth on some of that. And there was some stuff I took out of it. You never, as a creator, are going into making a movie going, well, this is going to be a deleted scene. You never have that in your mind, but then you end up having some. And so, yeah, there was stuff about my movie that I had to take out, and I admitted wasn't good.
It's got a sting, though.
It does. A lot. Yeah, it does. But ultimately, I think...
If you don't, there's almost like an aspect of like, that's almost a little bit of defeat in itself. Like, you have to be willing to grow in that process, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of dying to yourself. There was this whole line of...
That's a much better way
There's a whole line of dialogue that I cut out of this movie. And once I admitted to that, I was able to cut out other moments that I admitted to myself weren't good enough to make it. But for those of you who haven't seen it, there's this scene where there's like a birthday party or whatever, and different characters are coming up to the main character, who's named Ted, played by me, and he's just talking to people. And in the movie, there was this whole line of dialogue where they're just talking about how, like, hey, this is a great party, how are you doing? And he's like, well, it's going terribly, I hate it. And I took that line out because it kind of came across like it was supposed to be funny, but it wasn't funny. And to me, that line of dialogue was really important, but I just had to admit, like, hey, that doesn't work. We have to take it out. And you don't miss anything. And as an audience member, I'm sure you didn't feel like anything was missing in that scene, but it was actually your scene that came up right after that was supposed to lead into, and that wasn't there. So there's that scene with the cop and Ted on the porch, and then there was supposed to be that dialogue, and then you came in. That dialogue was cut out. It doesn't feel like there's anything missing, though. But as a creator, to me, I'm just sitting back going, like, there was supposed to be the scene here. And that's why I think creators are always the most critical of their stuff, because, like, man, there's something missing, but the audience doesn't feel like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. I'm trying to think of, like, little things that I've had to cut out here for the sake of it being palatable to listen to.
Right.
Like, and I don't edit much. Like, there's like a few times that I can remember because it bothered me so much. Like, where there was an audio issue or, like, people talking over one another and you just couldn't hear anything. That was one particular one that I edited out. And it was funny because everybody that heard the episode, it's one of my most popular episodes. But the one person I know that I told that to, I kind of ruined it because they wanted that in there and they wanted to hear it. And I was like, well, I deleted it. Like, it's done. It's gone. I already made that decision. But it was interesting. Like, I wish I never had to do that. But there's no way to know ahead of time what something's going to turn out to be.
Right.
You know, so you got to be, like, able to be a little bit more fluid with that. With as far as the actors and stuff, you said you had hired everybody. Did you meet with them in person, or did you see clips from them, or, like, what's that process like?
So, I mean, like I was saying before, we had that website that I used, backstage.com, which is a great outlet. Some people would have reels on there. Not everybody did. But essentially, for at least most of the people, I had them do a video audition where I would send them an excerpt from the script and say, like, hey, just read this. Let me see how you look as this character. Before I actually committed to that, I found Devin, who played Strange Woman in the movie, on the website, but I didn't have an account yet on the website. So I was just like, hey, I saw your reel. I want you to be in this movie. No matter who you decide to play, I want you to be in this movie. So I had actually offered her the role of both Strange Woman and Rachel. I was like, I don't care who you play. You just
I'm so glad and
need to be in this movie. And she was fantastic as Strange Woman, because she also said this way. She's like, I've played a lot of, like, good girls. I want to try something a little bit different. Like,
meeting her and seeing her in the final product, I don't know if it was the hair or just anything. She just transformed.
Yeah, that's something,
like a different
like,
person.
Especially women, but everybody has brought that up. They're like, her hair, man.
Yeah,
like,
I saw her the other night at the viewing, and it was just like a different person.
Yeah,
it's just funny.
But she's phenomenal. Like, I mean, I had a lot of great, amazingly talented actors in this movie. If I had to pick one, though, that I was like, they're going to be somebody, it would be Devin. She is so talented. I mentioned earlier where I was like, every time I tried to give her direction, it made her worse. Like, she was just so talented. Like, I can't wrap my head around it. Like, it just makes me picture, like, people have talked about working with Christian Bale or whatever, and they're like, you can't give him direction. He's just already good. And that's how I felt about her, where I mean, like, obviously there's a difference in talent level. Christian Bale's, like, the best actor working today. But, like, there was nothing I could say as a director that would make her performance better. She was so good. And I just enjoyed every second of working with her. And I'm so glad that I found her, because she was amazing. And I mean, I'm not saying that to belittle anybody else in the project. Everybody was good. Like, Josephine as Rachel was amazing. Palmer and Max, they played Cop 1 and 2. They were so good, especially together. They had this amazing chemistry. But there was just something about Devin that I was like, I just had to, like, sit back and watch and be like, you're good. And actually, I don't know if I told you this about already, but she was like a body double in Smile, that horror movie that came out earlier.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, yeah, you should be. You should be making moves. Like, you're good. Like, I actually, before meeting her, I remembered seeing her in a commercial. It was from some local, like, insurance company, like car insurance or something. And I saw her use that in her reel. And I was like, I already know this girl's good then. Because, like, I saw her do... In her reel, she had some, like, short film she'd done locally where she was, like, a drug addict or something. But then right after that, in the compilation, was her in this like, car insurance commercial playing a mother of a child. And I was like, that's already range. Like, I can tell, like, because I didn't even recognize her from that commercial until now. And this girl's amazing. So, I mean, yeah, I worked with a lot of talented people, but she was outstanding, and I would love to work with her again. She's amazing. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Did you see that Smile movie, by the way?
It
freaked me out,
so
dude.
So good.
It made me so uncomfortable.
I talked about that on my channel. I'm like, I don't get scared by horror movies.
It doesn't happen often.
On my way, because I did a first thoughts in the parking lot, like I do a lot of the times. I was checking over my shoulder, like I'm filming it. I saw my reflection in like the window of my car. I was like, oh my god, like that movie was amazing. I love that movie.
What is that term when something's like somebody used it for? I don't know if you ever seen it. Have you ever seen Attack on Titan?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so like
talked about it though.
So the creatures that are attacking the city,
yes, the Titans.
Yes, they. They look so much like a human, but also not. Yeah. And there's that weird. I forget what that term is when it's like looks like something familiar, but it's enough off that it makes uncanny valley.
Yeah. There was something uncanny about Devin's performance.
Well, I was thinking of Smile in general.
True, yeah.
Of thinking of that, where it was like, that's what freaked me out about that so much. I was looking at people. It wasn't some, like, cartoon that was distorted.
But the smiles.
It was so, it just didn't fit the scene purposely.
Yeah.
And it made me so uncomfortable to see that. Or, like, smiling while cutting your face. You know, it's just, it was so brutal.
Yeah. And that smile, that movie Smile, to me is one of my favorite movies to come out this year. But to relate it back to Devin, where it's like the way she just portrayed this character, was like, and one of the only directions that I gave to her that I think like mattered and that stuck was like, I told her, be sickly sweet with the way you're delivering these lines. And so I don't know if you remember specifically, but like the scene in the kitchen when the cops are there. And she's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Yeah. Like, just the way she did that, it still gives me chills. Because it's like, the way she's conveying it, it's creepy, but sweet. And you're like, I don't know how to process this. Yeah, no, I can't say enough good things about working with her. I'd love to do it again. She was so good.
Did you have a hard time with the runtime of the film? Like, did you have a end goal in mind with that?
Yes and no. I wanted it to be longer than it was, and because I maybe it's stupid to feel this way, but I always feel like the longer the movie it is, the more it's taken seriously. And so I knew immediately I wanted to be a full-length movie, which is like over an hour. And the script was 84, 86 pages long, something like that. And the movie ended up being around 80 minutes. I forget exactly the runtime, but I was trying really to make it something that would feel legit. And maybe that was to my own detriment, but like I wanted it to be longer, and I had to kind of like go with that. Actually, that was something that Logan, who is part of Elemento, said to me, where I was like, maybe we should make it longer, because I think the final cut, at least the cut we showed, was only 76 minutes or something. And I was like, don't we want to try to make it at least 80? Like, to make it be taken seriously? And he was like, I think it's amateurish to make it longer than it should be. And that's a good point, where it's like, we're trying to be taken seriously, but by making it longer and overstaying its welcome and, you know, making the credits slower so it takes up more time, like, that's kind of cheap in itself. So I don't know what the end runtime is going to end up being. Like, I mean, I will still shoot for that 80 because I feel like Yeah, there's an element where it's taken more seriously the longer
I don't even know what that
but
is. It's interesting you say that. When I look at new films, one of the first places my eyes go on IMDb is runtime.
Yeah.
And I want to know what kind of film am I looking at, and
Right.
runtime is a good indicator of that.
Right.
Like, if it's got a good review and it's 2.5 hours, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go with anybody else. I want to go by myself and watch this film and give it my all.
Right.
But if it's an hour and a half, I often will think like, oh, this is going to be more of a popcorn flick or something like that. Now, I don't think that that's actually true.
It's not, but it's something ingrained in your head. And I'll go back to Nolan's Following, which is 69 minutes long. Is that a popcorn flick? No, it's a lot to chew on. And my movie's longer than that. It's right now, like I said, it's like 76, 78, somewhere in that range of minutes. But like, I don't know what it is, but it's like, you feel like you can't be taken seriously unless it's longer than that. And that's something that I've had to combat and be like, hey, I just made the movie and I didn't worry about the runtime and I made it without overstaying my welcome, which was a big point. Like, I'm like, I don't want to write in scenes just to make it longer. I want to just tell the story and leave. Like, and that was one of the biggest, like, points of praise I received from multiple people was they were stoked with how it ended. They were like, I didn't want you to explain anything, and you didn't. And that was, like I said, I make my movies for me. I'm not trying to make it for anybody else, but I definitely did, as you probably noticed, take a big inspiration from Shutter Island at the end. But my biggest issue with Shutter Island is that it explains everything. And so I was like, I want to not do that.
There is something that really bothers me because it's hard to know how it's going to appear in the final result. I hate being treated like an idiot and can't figure something out.
Yeah.
And having something over-explained.
Sure.
If you want to explain something, do it naturally in a conversation. That's why, you mention a person's name early in the movie instead of saying, this is so-and-so. No, you're like, oh, hey, Jan. And now you know that person's Jan.
Sure.
Right? But if you had to later on, like, do something really dumb to let me know that person's name is Jan, like, that's literally how I feel with a lot of these movies where it tries to explain it. Or, like, where someone's like, I don't get what just happened in the movie. And it's like, well, this. And it's like, man, we already knew that. Like, that was only written in there for the people who didn't get it.
Yeah, like, one of my biggest pet peeves is in filmmaking is, like, when somebody is like, as we already know, and then they say something, I'm like, if you already know, why are you saying it?
Because people don't know.
Exactly. You're trying to cater to the lowest common denominator as a filmmaker, and that was, like, rule number one for me is, like, I'm not doing that. So, it was cool to me as a filmmaker to have multiple people also come back to me and say that film was a cliffhanger. I'm like, it's not. Everything in that movie is explained if you watch it.
Oh, in Shutter Island?
No, in my movie.
Oh, I was going to say, Shutter Island, like, goes back and shows you things.
Yeah, it shows you.
Where I would have rather gone back and watched the movie. I liked it, though.
It's a good movie, but, like, in contrast, what I did was I was like, I'm not going to explain anything twice.
Yeah, okay.
Everything that needs to be known about that movie is shown in that movie. And like I said, we're avoiding spoilers, so I'm not going to say anything now.
Don't hate me.
But, yeah. But everything that needs to be known about that movie is said explicitly.
Which is why I want to watch it a few more times.
At least once. Sometimes multiple times. Like I said, there was times we said things throughout the scene multiple times. And it just went over people's heads. And I'm proud of that. Because I don't want to sit around catering to people. I'm just trying to tell a story. So if you didn't get it, you can watch it again. And you'll get it. And so I'm not trying to put in the scene at the end. And I mean, I love Shutter Island. We both do. We just said that. But, like, if I have an issue with that movie, it's when they explain everything. Same thing with Joker. I love the movie Joker. But, like, there's multiple scenes in there where, like, hold on, you're too stupid to get this. Let me explain it again. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
When's the last time you watched that?
What, Joker?
Joker. I know it's still fairly new, so it can't be too long ago.
So, I mean, I saw it in theaters. I saw it a second time, I think. But I haven't really gone back to it. I mean, I enjoy it. But, yeah, it's like them over-explaining things kind of got to me where I'm like, I don't need to see it anymore.
I watched it very recently, like about 2 weeks ago. And I kind of just let it do its thing and just, like, just enjoyed it all. I don't know if I just forgot or I'm just looking at it differently now. Maybe because of like the political like anger that's out there, or like the hatred that a lot of people have for one another. Really upsets me. Like I was watching, dude. I'm just gonna embarrass myself a little bit. I'm watching the Hunger Game movies right now.
Okay.
And some of it seems really ironic watching. I'm like, how do you not see this? Like, how was this made so recently? But dude, I started crying at a scene, and it was like something basic. I just like started weeping, and I was like, I just saw that we are capable of this kind of hatred towards one another, or this kind of disassociation with value of life, and it upset me deeply.
Sure.
But when I watched Joker, I was kind of on that same thing where I might be caught up in the political stuff, but I don't hate anybody enough to want to kill them. I might say that in an angry thing and I'm being hyperbolic, but I don't really feel that way. Like I don't want civil war. I don't want any of this. I want to find a peaceful... Anyway, watching Joker was like those rash feelings that we all get played out to like the nth degree. And it was so much more violent and brutal than I remembered.
Yeah.
And like very much not like a normal movie. It wasn't theatrical. Like when he killed the people on the train, that was one thing. It had some theatrics to it, but spoiler alert, killing Murray on the Murray Show, there wasn't like this big music build up and this theatrical. It just happened.
The anticlimactic way that they show that is the best thing.
And when he gets up and does that dance, it's like something snapped in his head, and he literally it's like a nervous tick, almost. Like I don't know if that was meant to be in the film or if he just got up and did that, but I don't know. Even just like explaining it, there was something so uncomfortable about that.
Have you seen?
Sorry, just you bringing that up reminded me of that.
No, absolutely. And so, I mean, I love Joker, but it is also 90% ripped off of a Scorsese film, if you've seen it.
Which one?
I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's like, it's Robert De Niro is the fan. He's the Joker. And then, which is funny because in Joker, he's the show host. But in the movie that I'm talking about, the show host is played by Jerry Lewis, and it's called The King of Comedy.
I've never seen this.
It's almost beat for beat the same movie.
Does it have a violent ending?
Not as violent, but I don't want to give away spoilers, but the plot of that movie is Jerry Lewis plays a like talk show host, like De Niro is playing in The Joker, and Robert De Niro in this movie is, I don't know if he's supposed to be like autistic or what he is, but he's just off. And he's obsessed with this guy. And he thinks he's a great comedian, like in Joker. And he's trying to get on the show no matter what happens. So he ends up kidnapping Jerry Lewis so he can be on his show. It's the exact same plot. It is the exact same plot. And it's a Scorsese film. It's actually my favorite Scorsese film. Like, Scorsese's done a lot of great films, but for whatever reason, The King of Comedy is just, like, overlooked a little bit. This movie's phenomenal.
Yeah, I never heard that.
This movie is phenomenal. And I think Joker...
Got a lot of movies to watch now.
I think Joker did improve on some areas of it. But ultimately, I mean, like, the King of Comedy did it first. So, like, I kind of have to give the respect to King of Comedy.
I'll have to watch it and let you know.
It's so good.
To me, I liked it because it lived out... I lived vicariously through him.
Sure.
Because we've all been beaten down, and we know what it's like when you're already beaten down and then you get kicked again.
Yeah.
And it just took it to the degree of, like, what if I didn't have family to help build me up? What if I didn't have a support system? What if I didn't care about where I ended up?
A tick wrong.
Yeah. Just one thing. And then... watching that, I'm like, this is something we're all capable of, and this is why we need a support system, all of us.
I mean, and that's why I enjoy, and I've written a movie that I probably will never make, but it's very similar to Taxi Driver, which is the same concept.
That's one of my favorites.
I mean, it's what we all go through on a daily basis, this like gruel of being abused by people around us and being rejected by the women we're in love with and stuff. But in this case, I mean, in Taxi Driver, he's a Vietnam veteran. But, I mean, there could be a million reasons. You could be just a little bit off. You could be autistic. You could be whatever. And whatever the reason is, if you're just a little bit incapable of accepting that rejection, you could go in a million different directions with it. And that's why, I mean... Taxi Driver is a great movie that I think people kind of overlook. I know, like, everybody talks about the "you talking to me" scene, but like, there's so much more to that movie than that.
That is probably my favorite Scorsese film. That was my favorite film growing up. That might have been the first like real deep film that I got into as a kid.
But I know we've talked
Probably shouldn't have watched it, but
we've talked about Mother before because we're both big fans of that and Aronofsky. But I've seen people compare before, like Joker is the male version of Black Swan is for females, but it's the same thing. Like, and Aronofsky is a genius too. I love Aronofsky, but Black Swan is one of the best movies I've ever seen because it's the same thing of like you're trying to reach that level and you're getting constantly rejected and you have to mentally go to a different place to get there.
That's a stressful film to watch.
So good. Aronofsky is one of the best filmmakers of our lifetime.
I don't know if there's Mother like that. Just I get stressed out sometimes just thinking about that film.
So good.
I've never felt so paranoid in a movie before.
I wish I could come up with a concept that would make people feel like that because I know I can't, but I wish I could.
Dude, all right, not my favorite by any means, but there's a couple things like in film that I am so incredibly jealous of, where I'm like, I wish to the depth of my soul that I wrote that, not this person.
Yeah,
and like one of them for me. Ever see Seven Psychopaths?
Yeah, we've talked about it. Yeah.
Oh, we did talk about this, maybe even in the last episode, but just in case we didn't, it's that short story that's told about the not the miner. What are they called?
It's the Tom Waits story.
Yeah. Where that guy is like tormenting him and following him, and then he slits his throat, and the guy's like, "I'm following you," and slits his throat. Yeah. But anyway, I'm really dumbing that down. But man, dude, it's just like, how do you put such depth in like 3 minutes or 4 minutes, whatever that is?
It's hard as a creator. It's really hard as a creator because, like, I mean, I've talked on my YouTube channel about this before, I think, but like, there's certain things you see as a creator where it inspires you, like, oh, I could do something like that. And it's weird because sometimes it's something way out of your ability, but when I saw Inception, I was like, I want to make something like that. But then when I saw Bo Burnham's Inside, it made me want to give up because I was like, I could never make something like that. And same thing actually happened with the Daniels Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's like, I could never make something that good.
Dude, that was so beyond
it's
like
so
any other
amazing.
film.
And it's like, I think it's hard as a creator where you want to compare yourself to other creators and you have to just not and just create on your own. Going back to like, you know, Spielberg making Jurassic Park, I'm sure when he was like, he settled for that plastic cup of water shaking, he was like, God damn, this sucks.
Yeah, he's mad because his vision didn't get made.
But that is one of the most iconic scenes in film history.
Do you think he thinks that it would have been even more iconic if it was the mirror?
I don't know. But like
I don't know how you would think like that looking at that.
Right.
Are you bitter about it or are you grateful?
Yeah, I would be mad.
Yeah, I would be upset. I'd be bitter.
But like if you're a creator, you just have to create and not worry about what other people are doing. And it's fascinating because, like I said, I look at, you know, Inside or anything, frankly, that Bo Burnham has made, and I'm like, I couldn't ever make that. To me, Bo Burnham is one of the greatest artistic minds of this generation. I am obsessed with.
If you told me that before Inside came out, I'd be like, "What are you smoking?"
I did say that, and nobody got it until Inside came out. But when Make Happy came out, especially because he does like that Kanye rant at the end of Make Happy, to me, like that whole concept, I constantly quote it of like I wouldn't have gotten lettuce if I knew it wouldn't fit, because that line alone is so deep when you actually think about it. Like, you wouldn't have accepted the tertiary things in life. You wouldn't have gone for them if you thought you didn't need them. And if you thought you had to accept something better in life. Like, if you didn't think you could accept everything. Because if you haven't seen Make Happy, that whole Kanye rant is like, it's more of an explanation of Bo Burnham's life. And so he's talking about like making burritos and trying to get Pringles out of a Pringles can. And he's like, oh, well, I can't reach the Pringles, so I have to tilt the can into my mouth. But then there's all these crumbs. And it's all like an example of like what it's like to be an artist, but ultimately what it's like to be a human. And when you have goals in life and you have to settle for the shit that comes your way instead of what you actually want. Even in that like whole bit when he's talking about the Pringles, he's like, I wish I had a daughter so she could get the Pringles. you know, because it's talking about your dreams in life, and you're like, I know I can't reach my dreams, but maybe if I have a kid, they could reach it. And that bit is so...
I gotta watch that part again.
It's so goddamn deep.
He's good, though. I watched all of his stuff after watching Inside again. I was like, this is too good.
Back in like 2018 or something, I made a video about how he is like one of the best comics alive. And I got a lot of shit for it. Like, people are like, what are you talking about? You're adding so much, like, the door is blue, like, meaning to it. Like, oh, the door is just blue. But, like, you're saying, like, the blue represents sadness. That's a big thing people talk about. But, like, I was, like, talking about how deep everything is saying, and people laughed at it. And then Inside came out, and people started attributing, like, depth and meaning to what he was saying. And I was like, thank God. Because I've put so much of who I am as like a critic, at least, into Bo Burnham being this deep philosophical voice of this generation, and people laughed at it. People really did. And then Inside came out, and people were like, hey, yeah, he's making points. But he's been making points the whole time. He just used comedy to portray it.
Well, most guys that do like the silly songs, like I associated him initially with like Adam Sandler.
Sure.
Like I never thought there was going to be any depth to it. It really took Inside for a lot of people to see that.
Yeah.
I never sat down and took him serious.
It's been there though.
Oh, you see that going back.
Yeah. Saw it.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, I got one more question for you before we wrap this up. As far as your movie, looking back where you're at now, I know you're still doing things now.
Right.
Going back, is it, I don't want to say such cliche, but almost like, is there anything you'd be doing differently? Or what's like a big thing that you've taken for this? If somebody's listening, they're like, I want to start my film. What's something that in the very beginning, early stages, you wish you did differently that would have set you up better now? Sure. And that you also could use in like your next film?
Sure.
You know?
So, I mean, I've talked about it before, but I think, well, one, and I've definitely said it already today, is you need to surround yourself with people that are talented. But I think the second most important lesson I've learned is you need to work within your own means. And I'm not regretting any decision I made with making this movie, but there was things where it's like, maybe making a thriller or horror movie for the first movie wasn't the right choice. Like, I knew I didn't have a budget. Maybe I should have made something that was a little bit easier. Because going into this, I mean, Logan, Mitch, and I, including myself, who's already an actor as part of the crew, we had a crew of 3 people. That's nothing. You know, like, if you read the credits of a movie, you've got a key grip, you've got a best boy, you've got there's 20 people at least that are all part of making a scene happen. It's a lot. And we didn't have that. And not saying that I regret anything we did, because I don't. But it's hard to make a movie with 3 people. So I think working within your own means is the best thing. People have talked about it with, like, when it comes to singing or anything. It's like, if you know you've got a vocal range, sing within that range. And so if you know you have a budget and you think, oh, well, like, I could make a great movie. Like, think like Star Wars. Oh, I could make a Star Wars plot. If you have $20,000, don't try. Because you're not going to do it right. You're not. And, I mean, I think we succeeded at making the softening. But if I'm being honest, when I sat down to write that movie, there was plenty of scenes we had to cut. Like, I had visions of having staircases with blood rushing down them. And, you know, having pythons slithering through the scenes and strangling people. Like, we didn't get to do that. And that's fine. But, like, if you're going to make a movie, you have to work within your own means. And eventually we did that with this movie. Like, everything that we did, we were capable of doing. But if I'm going to make another movie, it would be something that I know that a 3-person crew could do and that we could do without any special effects. So I think it's something that it seems pretty simple when you talk about it, but just do what you can do. And then people will see that. And then hopefully you'll gain a budget as you go on. Like, I mean, that's the biggest reason why I want to get into like something like Sundance or Tribeca or whatever is I want people that know what they're talking about and are doing things to see me and give me that budget so that next time I can make something a little bit bigger. Like I have dreams of doing huge things that I know I can't do right now. But if you have a limited budget, where in this case it was $20,000, which started out as 12 and then turned into 15 and then 20, just live within those means and make what you can, and then it'll become what it will become, and that's fine. I mean, like you brought up earlier, the witch movie, Blair Witch Project.
Oh yeah.
All that was a couple of
not
idiots,
here, but previous conversation.
Couple of idiots running around in the woods with a camcorder. That's all it was, and they made, I think, if I'm not wrong,
wasn't it one of the highest profit margins?
Right, the highest profit percentage based on like money they put in versus how much money they got. And it's because they had an idea that they knew could work with what they had. So just like, I mean, so many people make excuses like, I can't make Star Wars, I can't make this, I can't make that. Just make what you can and go with it. And that's what we did. Granted, we kind of overshot it. We tried to make a couple of things that, like I've complained about the special effects already on this podcast. There was some things that we tried to do that I know it doesn't look great, but like just shoot for what you can. Work within your means.
Thinking about all of the special effects, they probably look a lot better than what you're thinking.
I mean, yeah, like I said.
Nothing took me out, and you spooked me, scared me, and I enjoyed it.
The artist is always going to be the most critical.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, there's critics aplenty, but the person who makes it's always going to be the most critical. But regardless, work within your means, make what you can, and if you know what you're doing, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Like, I mean, my next movie I've already planned out because it's like a no-budget movie, and I want people talking in front of a camera because that's what matters. It's like making something that you can work with the budget you have. So, I mean, sure, if you've got a couple $100 million, you can make an Avatar, or actually, frankly, that movie costs like $2 billion or whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck Avatar. But like a Marvel movie or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But if you have $100 million, make $100 million movie. If you have 20,000, make it 20,000. The plot, the movie, the content that you're trying to make is what matters. So just do that.
I think that's actually a great answer because that applies to a lot of things. That's like a mentality in life. Like that's kind of the mentality I have here.
Yeah.
I have many goals and dreams of what I want this to be.
Right.
If it stayed right here, I'm content and I'm happy. I'm doing it my way. I'm open to criticism, but I'm mostly doing it like this is me, this is mine, this is my creativity, my outlet, and I love it. But obviously I want to do more, but I can't make an excuse of, because this table has a little piece here and over there that's held together by tape, or because, these these mic arms aren't the ones I want. It's not affecting it like to the level that I think it will. To me, that's just like the things that I want to perfect.
Right.
But really it boils down to like the content of the conversation, my preparation before we start, my ability to keep a conversation going, or the people that I'm choosing to come on here like yourself. That's really what matters. It's the things that I can control that I need to focus on, and the rest of the stuff will come as it comes.
Right. And it's about taking steps. Like, I mean, I mentioned Nolan earlier, and he made Following for whatever it was. I don't know how much it was, 20,000, whatever it was. But he made a movie with a bunch of friends from college. And so it was like $80,000, whatever it was. So then some studios saw that, said, here's $2 million. He made Memento.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
$50,000, so he made Insomnia. So then Warner Brothers gave him $100 million, so he made Batman Begins. It's all about the process.
That's crazy to think of it like that.
Make what you can with what you have. Don't worry about it. You don't need to make Avatar. You don't need to make Inception right now. Just make what you can with what you have. Because, and I said this constantly to Mitch and Logan from Elemento, where I was like, a good movie is a good movie regardless of the budget. We're going to work within our means, and we're going to make what we can, and it doesn't matter. Good filmmakers make good films. Money regardless. And I think that's true. Like, I mean, I don't want to dig on Taika Waititi because I love the guy. He made Jojo Rabbit. It's one of my favorite movies of
Is he the director of that?
Time. Yes.
Okay.
Writer and director. He also fucking made Thor Love and Thunder this year. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. And I love the guy. But he was given like $200 million to make that. And I'm not trying to brag, but I feel like my movie's better. And it's like, it's not about the budget. Sometimes it's just about what you have going for you. So with what you have, make what you can. And that's fine. It doesn't have to be the biggest blockbuster of all time. It can just be like, I mean, I mentioned earlier before Sunrise, that was a cheap movie. Lots of the best movies I've ever seen were cheap. That's fine. Just make what you can with what you have and build from that.
No, I'm with you. Like, say, you know, your scenario is you don't have much money and you want to produce a product for somebody, and you look down at what you got. You know, you go in your cabinets, you go in your fridge, and you got hot dogs, some shredded cheese, some uncooked pasta, and a lot of sugar and some tomatoes. You know what you do?
Make some shitty pasta.
You make some jolly spaghetti.
Make some shitty spaghetti. And you work with it, man. They're turning a profit. They're turning a profit. It's fine.
I don't know if the spaghetti's the profit part, but
whatever it is.
Something is.
But I'm serious. Yeah. I am serious.
Yeah,
like, I mean, like, people don't always turn a profit with their first movie, but it's about working with what you have. Like, I'm not expecting to turn a profit with this. I put in $20,000.
This is an investment.
Of my own money. I took out a loan. I'm going to be paying off this shit for a while. But it's fine, you know? Like, I don't think... Tarantino, actually, he talked about this before. His first movie, he never released. Because he made it and said that sucked. But you know what? To him, that was his film school. I never went to film school either. But by making a movie, you learn shit. And same thing for him. It's like, I learned some stuff. I'll use that for the next time I make something. And that's fine. Sometimes the learning experience is worth what you put into it. And I don't think anybody's watching Nolan's Following and going, man, that movie's great. It's got like a 7.2 or something. Frankly, I would give it a 6.5. It's not a great movie. But that same guy made Memento. That same guy made Prestige. Dark Knight, Inception. Sometimes it's about just taking that first step. So, I'm not trying to say I'm in that same category, because I know I'm not.
But it's the same method.
But it's the principle.
The same thought process.
It's of taking that risk, working with your own means, and making something. Because I know it's a stupid cliche that people say constantly, but it's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you want to do something, whether it's in art or something else in life, I don't know what it is, but just try it. Maybe you'll fail, but what are you doing in life if you're not trying what you want to do in life? We've got best case scenario, like 100 years in life.
I think that's really pushing it.
Fucking try it.
70, 80.
Yeah, the average lifespan is 75 years.
There you go.
Fucking try it. Do what you want to do, because what else are you doing in life?
Yeah.
And yeah, I've spent a lot of my life in fear, not doing things. But the past 5 years, whether it was my YouTube channel or trying to make a movie, why did I say trying? I made a movie. Whatever it was, I will never regret any of it, because I did it. Was it bad? That's up to you to decide. But I did it, you know? So fucking try it. Maybe it won't be as great as you hoped it would be, but it will give you lessons that you can learn to do better the next time. I know my movie wasn't perfect. It wasn't. No movie is ever perfect. Citizen Kane is the best movie ever made. Is it perfect? No. I'll give it a 10 out of 10. But if I'm being really critical, it's like a 9.8 out of 10. That's just how life works.
Yeah.
But try it. Do it. And see what you can do with it. Like, what's the point of living if you're not doing what you love in life?
Dude, I couldn't agree more.
What's the point? Give me one reason to live if you're not doing what you want to do.
Jolly spaghetti. How can people find you?
YouTube.com. Wow, that was not English. YouTube.com/SimonsRants. I'm also on Twitter, SimonsRants, all that shit. Yeah, just do what you want.
Awesome.
Figure it out.
No, I love it, dude. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for listening and watching. We are on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously you know that. But if you're still listening, an audio listener, I'm leaving you behind. You're missing out on things. You're missing out on this jolly spaghetti with hot dogs. And yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for your support. And cheers. I love you too.
I love you.
Bye.
Tink it and sink it.
Oh, I missed the tink. There we go.
There we go. That was good.
See ya. Deep Fried Thoughts, it's the best podcast. Deep Fried Thoughts. Don't worry, we're working on a better intro.